the trades like last night. The Nets just went south. They got rid of Kyrie, and
Is that a good thing? They got rid of Kyrie?
they got rid of him and what's his name?
Durant.
Durant.
Why would they get rid of both of them?
They wanted to leave. And,
Oh, they both wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Didn't Durant go to the Suns?
Yeah. So now they're the favorites.
The Suns are the favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Who else is on the Suns?
You got CP. He's the
Chris Paul?
Yeah, and he's the point guard, and the one who was dating the Kardashian.
Griffin? No.
No.
That Blake Griffin is the one that was married to her.
No. Not Blake. It was like some other kind of no-name guy.
Who was? Do I just type in who is dating a Kardashian?
Sure. Yeah, see basketball player Kardashian, you'll get it. No, it was Kendall. This one was dating Kendall.
Oh, they went for the younger one.
Yeah, the better one.
Chris Humphries?
Chris Humphries.
Isn't that weird how that just I said basketball player Kardashian and
That's all
just
you need.
Kim Kardashian dated him.
Right.
It wasn't Kendall?
No, Kendall dated. Let me see. I'm just bringing up the Suns. Devin Booker.
I don't know who that is.
So he's a top 10 player in the league.
Maybe I should date somebody in the WNBA. Maybe that's a move.
I don't know.
Could you imagine?
5'8" and a 6'4".
Could you imagine? What's the average height of a basketball player in that WNBA?
I don't know. Probably 6'2". That's a good thing to look up.
Let's see. Love the Google machine. The average height of a WNBA player is around 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
With the shortest at 5'6". Who that is? Let me get it. What do they make?
That's the one. Yeah.
What do I type? I guess Google machine again. What do I type?
I think they don't do that well though.
5'6". Can't be doing horrible.
Yeah, but in comparison, not that great.
All right, now I got to look up average WNBA salary.
Well, that's the argument all the time is why don't they have equal pay? Well, they're not drawing the.
Well, it's
crowds.
big difference. There's no views.
Yeah.
Who has the highest league average in the WNBA? Wow, I don't know any of these teams. I just saw Storm across. This looks like a high school team. WNBA may be a league on the rise, but its players' pay is low. Glancing over the highest paid players in the NBA reveals that Golden State Warrior Steph Curry has the richest annual Really?
Oh yeah.
I would have thought that it would be Bron.
No, Steph Curry. Because
48 mil.
He had the newest contract, I think.
I feel like that's chump change compared to NFL, though.
Well, NFL. Well, no,
he's making 48 mil a year.
Actually, for quarterbacks, but otherwise, no. Other positions in football, they don't pay as much.
Yeah, they don't pay that much.
Baseball pays the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge contracts.
As we dive into the salaries of WNBA players, however, the difference is stark. In 2020, the league's latest collective bargaining agreement bumped the maximum salary for the highest paid players from $117 to $215. I make more than them. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's a big bump, though.
Yeah, I mean, what I guess what would draw the crowds? You're just not going to see the same feats that you see in regular NBA.
You see layups and some little post-up shots. That's about it. It's a little more dynamic.
Jewel Lloyd is the highest paid at $228.
The argument when you want to make, as far as equal pay across the board, is female supermodels versus male. I mean, if there is one, but a male model, right?
What would be the equivalent to a male supermodel?
Well, it used to be like Tyrese or one of those guys, right?
Oh, before he was in movies and rapping.
Yeah. So that pay, imagine that. Cindy Crawford was making a heck of a lot more. So
now I got to look up popular male supermodels. This is how we go down the rabbit hole, and this is why I don't go to bed until 4 a.m. some days. Tyson Beckford. I've seen that. I've seen that dude before.
Yep.
Tyson Beckford, David Gandy.
No idea.
Simon Nessman, Gabriel Aubrey, Tyrone Edmond.
That's what they pulling in.
This dude looks like Jimmy G from the 49ers.
Everyone loves Jimmy G.
Jimmy G's the homie, man. I'm a Patriots guy, so Jimmy G was our next savior, and then he abandoned ship when Tom said he was never going to leave, and then he leaves us. So doesn't he look like Jimmy G?
He does.
Right?
Yeah. He's got the good hair. He's got the brows.
All right, now I got to know, what does a male supermodel get paid average campaign?
Not much.
Male supermodel average campaign. Eventually, I'll have somebody behind the decks doing all the Googling for us, and we'll just have a screen here.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah, it'd be great. Listen, baby steps. We're getting there. How much do models make per campaign? I need specifically male. If the billboard is running nationally, you can be paid anywhere from $5 to $20,000. If the client wants you exclusively for 1 year, that could mean an additional $10,000 bonus. This is bottom of the barrel fish.
Yeah.
We're not talking about
No.
Lima. Was it Adriana Lima and
Right.
who are the other ones?
Well, back in the
Giselle back in the
90s,
day.
right? That was Cindy Crawford and what's her name? Christensen was her name?
Banks.
Tyra Banks.
Tyra Banks.
Yeah.
Tyra?
Yeah.
I said Tara.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. All right, here we go. And then we're gonna. This is what I was looking for. The 10 richest male models in the world.
Okay.
This is in 2019, so they probably took a hit during COVID. Is that the dude that looks like Jimmy G? Man, his cheekbones are fantastic. That's crazy.
We can make those.
You can make them, right? See, I got the right guy on.
Yeah.
Sean O'Pry, born in the United States. O'Pry was discovered in his late teens on his MySpace profile. Wow. The first influencer. That's great. Since then, he's worked with some of the largest brands, including Calvin Klein, Versace, Dolce & Gabbana, Ralph Lauren, and Michael Kors.
Wow.
He's got striking blue eyes. That's what they said in this article. His striking blue eyes
Uh-huh.
that have stared back from billboards. So dramatic when people write this shit. It's crazy.
So normally, remember back
1.5 mil is the net worth, I guess.
Okay.
That doesn't seem that
No.
much.
Net worth? No.
I gotta be real with you. He's got good cheeks and he's got a good jaw, but let the kid lean out a little bit. I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna give him a run for his money.
What's that other one that said, remember, she goes, I wouldn't get out of bed for less than like 50 grand or something? Remember, that was a very famous
Quote?
quote.
That was a female supermodel.
Female supermodel. Yeah.
Get out of back to the Google machines. Get out of bed for less than. Because I'm gonna say it and you're gonna be pissed that you didn't.
I know.
Linda Evangelista.
No, but she's one of them, though.
Remember when Linda?
So Linda Evangelista
Waking?
actually is currently right now suing the company with CoolSculpt.
Oh, the
Vertical
sculpting,
sculpt. Yeah, it's for the fat freezing reduction modality.
the hard sell.
Yeah, so that she
That's such-
so she ended up getting what you call PAH, which is rare, but it actually patients get it, and it's paradoxical adipose hypertrophy. So you actually get enlarged fat cells from the treatment.
Really?
So you just go the opposite; it just gets bigger, and that's what happened to her.
Ooh. And then what happens in that situation? What do you do to reverse that?
Liposuction usually to revise it, but she had to go into another surgery, like actual surgery. So
That would suck if you got that on your neck.
yeah, like under your chin or something. Like
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think her was her abdomen or her waist, but
It would just look like me after Thanksgiving every day. They'd be like, "Yo, we can't pay you for any of these campaigns." Well, actually, just gonna call Nick. Yeah, so it says that that's who it was.
really,
Sam, unless Sam Sura.
maybe it was. It was a black supermodel. though.
Linda Evangelista won't get out of bed for less than $10,000 a day.
I guess maybe it was her.
That's-
then.
yeah, that
Okay.
might have been her.
All right. All right. I thought it
I
was
need to see
someone
what she
else.
looks like, and then
But they were all in that video, that George Michael video. You remember that video?
No.
You're too young. That was like an early '90s video, and all the supermodels were in it. There's about 6 of them. And every one of them were just, top of their game, making tons of money.
okay. Oh wow, they're showing pictures. My cosmetic procedure nightmare.
Yep.
The supermodel alleges a body contouring treatment left her brutally disfigured after 5 years in hiding. 5 years? 5 years in hiding? It's a little dramatic.
That's what she said.
That's
Yeah.
a little dramatic. What's the reverse process on something like
Well,
that?
I mean, you're a supermodel, so if that happens to you, right? I mean, you're embarrassed.
She was getting campaigns. She looks. I mean,
yeah, probably not.
that's what I'm saying. Like, no
Yeah.
offense to her, we all hit a wall at some
Yeah.
point, and we hit our age.
Right.
And if your career is focused purely on beauty and your figure and whatnot,
Yeah.
you hit that age. They're not calling you for certain campaigns anymore. It's just the
Right.
reality of what it is.
So maybe now it's just the friend network and where they live, and she's in hiding from that, I guess.
She said that she won't hide anymore. That's what she said. I won't hide anymore.
Yeah, she's suing for big money.
She's suing the actual company.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we get patients like that. We do. There's a few that we've had that have had cool sculpt and had some irregularities, and we revise them.
Damn.
They have to
So
go under a surgery.
What's a process like in, I guess, screening for that, or you just don't know until it actually happens?
Yeah, you don't know until it happens.
Damn.
Yeah, there's no way to decipher if someone is going to have that issue or not. You just don't know.
So okay. All right, I have so many questions. So
Yeah.
when something like that, like the procedure backfires,
Mhm.
when something like that happens, is it a gradual increase into what they're seeing in terms of like gaining the weight and stuff around that, or is it a 2 days post-op all of a sudden
A lot
things
of
start
times
blowing
what I
out?
hear is, you're very swollen after the procedure itself. You have some bruising, you're swollen, and then the swelling starts to regress, and then you just have residual bulging after the swelling goes down. So it's usually like a month, 2 months, you start seeing it, and then after 3 or 4 months, when all the swelling has resolved, then you really notice it.
So like little, almost like, when you pinch fat cells, like the little roly feeling of the fat cells, is
Yeah.
it like
No,
that?
it's not like irregularity, like you see like lumpiness. It's like literally when you put on a Cool Sculpt applicator, it's basically like an applicator fits like a lower abdominal area, an upper abdominal area, or waist. And it's basically in the dimension of that applicator that just stays swollen and enlarged. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's kind of, it's uniform. And so you basically have to suction all that down.
Oh damn!
Mhm.
Showing a picture of her leg.
Yeah.
I could say a lot of things right now with what that looks like. I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it
I
I'm
have
gonna
an
give it
idea.
somewhat PG because I
I
know
have an idea what
some of
you're
your
thinking.
clients and people are gonna listen to this.
Yeah.
So if it was just my people, oh man, I would have a field day with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's nothing against her. It's just, which I have to say as a disclaimer.
It kind of looks like an udder. You can keep it that.
There you go.
Not
Yeah.
safe, I guess, but
Going in for fat removal and coming out with an udder.
yeah.
It wasn't even a little bit better, is what she says, after her second liposuction in 2017.
Okay. Well, it should have been.
She had to wear compression. Should have been. Who was your play? Oh, listen.
Yeah.
If you see this clip, hit him up.
Yeah.
She had to wear compression garments, girdles, and chin strap for 8 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, that's typical protocol for
The PAH
liposuction.
may come back, which she says it did, even after a second liposuction in 2017. It wasn't even a little bit better, she says. The bulges are protrusions, and they're hard. If I walk without a girdle in a dress, I will have chafing to the point of almost bleeding. Damn.
It's a lot of walking. But yeah, that's bad.
Because it's not like soft fat rubbing, it's hard fat rubbing. It's hard?
Yeah. Yeah. So even without PAH, I'm not a fan of Cool Sculpting at all. The reason why is because you get a 20% reduction at best, and you see it about 3 months post. Where if you do liposuction, you can perform it under local, you can perform it under anesthesia. When we do it under local, the recovery is much quicker. And you'll see a change in 1 week. It's amazing.
For liposuction,
Yeah.
you're saying?
You'll see a change in 1 week. 1 month is amazing. 3 months is unbelievable. It's not 20% reduction. We're talking about 80%, 90%. It's just completely contouring. It's completely different. We'll get patients that had Cool Sculpt come to my office. They'll say, I had Cool Sculpting done. I didn't see a change at all. And then we'll schedule them for liposuction. I'll go in there with the liposuction cannula, and it's like hitting concrete.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of times there's a lot of fibrosis. Basically, the fat cells are hardened, and so you're just trying to break through it. It's a nightmare.
Oh.
So yeah, that's a big deal. When someone comes to me for a consult for liposuction, they said previous Cool Sculpting, I'm like,
I know what I'm going to find in there.
this is gonna be a tough case. Yeah.
And now, so for those that don't know, Cool Sculpting and the technology behind it, what is it? Because we've kind of just been talking about the side effects of it.
I mean, it's literally freezing fat. So it gets to such a cold temperature that the fat cells actually die, and then they get absorbed. And
So they're supposed to just push through the body.
yep, so the
Okay.
body just breaks it down, absorbs it, and emits it.
And
But-
so when you do a procedure like that, they're awake, they're not being put under.
Yep.
What's the time for the actual entire procedure? And what is the recovery where they actually see the results? And like, what's a recovery based on like that?
I mean, the procedure itself takes about 30, 40 minutes, and then they have to wait about 3 months to see a 20% reduction
From the Cool Sculpt.
from the Cool Sculpt. And then they're swollen, they're bruised, and you got to wait for all that to resolve.
So something like that you should do in the winter.
Yes.
Don't do that in the summer when you're ready to put a bathing suit on.
Ideally, all of that is better in the winter. We do a lot of liposuction, and it definitely dips in the summer because you got to wear the garments.
After lipo.
After. Like 6 to 8 weeks. It's kind of like a wetsuit material. It's, cumbersome. You're wearing that all day, every day. If it's 90 degrees out, not fun.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so with liposuction, the basics of it is you go in, you suck the fat out, remove the fat, and now that extra space, if you work in a case where somebody was severely obese or overweight, that extra space, obviously it's got to compress down to where it used to just sit up.
Yep.
So now is that what you're waiting to reset the body?
Yes. So, if you're dramatically large, liposuction is probably not the best, treatment for you. Liposuction typically is a contouring procedure. It's not a weight loss procedure. But yeah, if you have an area where you're doing a lot of liposuction, decreasing a lot of fat in that area, you can have what we call dead space, which is basically an open area where fluid can accumulate. So you need to compress that down. If you don't, then fluid will accumulate there. You can get what we call a seroma, which is basically inflammatory fluid that builds up. And the only way to take care of that is to put in a needle, a syringe, extract it, continue, compression garments, and just doing that on a weekly basis.
So obviously your patients know about this prior to getting the surgery.
Yes. It's on one of the consents that's a risk. But I've, knock on wood, never had that. And I think a lot of times it's because the patients that I have been doing liposuction on are real candidates for liposuction.
Okay.
They're not excessively
contouring, not excessive obesity.
They're not excessively large. Yeah. And
Okay.
really just shaping them. So it's the ideal patient is someone who is active, they're dieting, they're just kind of have finicky areas that they want to reduce, and they got to that kind of sticking point where there's nothing they can do to get rid of that irregularity, that contour irregularity they want to just kind of smooth out. So liposuction, is basically perfect for that, just to contour and shape.
And so when somebody comes to you, they want to get the liposuction done. Would you say that the spots that they're usually getting done, what are the hot spots that you usually see?
Abdomen, waist, for the most part. We do now what's commonly called lipo 360, which is basically the full abdomen, waist, hips, back. So you're basically just doing 360.
Strap me up. Get on this table right now. Get it all off me, man.
It is amazing. When you see the right patient, you just, a lot of times I'll get a consult that'll come in, and I'll know right away. I'll go through the whole spiel on what we do and how we do it, and then I'll be like that. I hope that one books, because the result will be unbelievable. You get so excited on certain patients. Because
how do you know? What's the usual look?
The usual look is,
I guess you could say the body characteristics that you usually see and know.
Yes. Basically they have kind of like somewhat of a silhouette already. They have a nice shape. They just have maybe some excessive hips and just a little, excess fat like in the lower abdomen. The lower part of the back, what we call the sacral sulcus area, just below where basically the buttocks is, like you have some fullness there. So when you basically kind of excavate that fat out of there, you really shape things. You get like the backside to pop. You get the waist to just tighten up. You take down a little bit of the hip and you create a nice little shapely curve that just flows, and it looks great. You just kind of can subtract it in your mind on how this is going to look. You just know it's going to be amazing. It's like hard to really mess up.
And what are some of the misconceptions about liposuction?
Misconceptions are, if I gain weight, it's going to come back to that area and look strange. That's not really the case. What actually happens is, so you have all the fat you're going to have basically from puberty. So when you remove that fat, the fat basically where you're seeing the areas where you don't like is because it's more concentrated. So you move the areas that are more concentrated, and then the areas that are more concentrated, those areas are going to get bigger. So that is potentially true. If you gain 10, 15 pounds from your preoperative surgical weight, that's where it's going to get bigger. So if you kind of, again, shape the waist and the abdomen, and you may have some now concentrated fat like in the inner thigh or the buttock, those areas are going to get big if you get 10 or 15 pounds heavier.
Yeah, because I was going to ask post-op, like what are the guidelines that you give people? Because you're probably saying don't overdo it now and just think just because you got rid of all this in one swoop that you could just start eating like crazy and doing things, which I'm sure you see.
Yep. It's a lifestyle change. I work with nutritionists too. I get patients on meal plans. You really, this is a partnership that you have with your patients. You perform the procedure, and you know, it's a little selfish actually in a way because I want my results to be amazing and I want them to stay that way. So, you know, a lot of times I'm like hard on my patients. Like if I do liposuction and then say a week later they ask me, when can I drink? And I'm like, come on. I'm like, let's just see a little bit of the results first. We'll talk about that. But at the same time, let's just try to, you know, achieve those results we want first. And, you know, we can get into that. But at the same time, it's a lifestyle change. You know, you don't have to omit all the bad things you used to do. But at the same time, you know, you want to keep your weight basically at your preoperative surgical weight. You don't want to gain any more. So if you fluctuate like 10 pounds, not a big deal. You start getting excessive more than that, it's gonna make some changes you're not gonna be happy with.
So you're saying you want to keep it at your preoperative weight.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say something like that, let's say, I don't know, you obviously, well, I don't want to pinpoint it. You deal with this more with men or women for liposuction or both?
Mostly women, but we do get a lot of men.
Okay.
Surprisingly, and amazingly enough, men do incredibly well. I don't know why. Men are typically not great with pain.
You're going to put me right on this table right now, and I'm going to get this done this second.
Basically, you know, men are babies when it comes to pain, but for some reason with liposuction, they do amazing. It's unbelievable. I had a patient recently that he asked me, what's the average time for liposuction? Like, how long is this going to take? And I said about 3 hours. And right away he was thinking, that's a long time. Like, what am I going to be doing? I'm like, well, there'll be music you'll be able to listen to. He's like, I'm going to get bored. I'm like, all right, listen.
Go watch Netflix. You got the TV right there.
So I actually bought a special stand just for him, put an iPad up, and he watched 3 episodes of Netflix. And we did a full liposuction. Didn't make a peep. He was just unbelievable.
Just chilling there.
Just chilling.
Nah, I'd be a baby. I'd be the worst.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yo, how much? Doc, I'd be like, Doc, how much longer, man? You got to get it. Just finish it up, bro, please.
I'm telling you, you'll be surprised. I don't know why. I don't know why men are great at liposuction.
Okay, so here was the question I was getting to.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the guy comes in, he's 230. Okay, so you don't want them to gain anything over 230.
Right.
Normal areas that you're getting it done on for a male, because I can relate to it. So what would it be?
Male, the flanks are always the finicky area on a male.
Flanks are
basically your waist.
Okay.
You know, that area basically just bulges out.
I hate that area.
And it's tough you really have to get down to, you know, fairly low percentage body weight to really start reducing that in. So that's the big one. You know, and lower abdomen, that's about it. Sometimes it's the chest, but the chest could be like a gynecomastia type of thing where it's not necessarily fat. It's more mammary tissue.
Do you take care of that surgery as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to get to that for the bodybuilder listeners.
Sure.
But so let's say it's 230,
Mm-hmm.
preoperative weight. It's a very tongue twisty type of word or phrase, I should say. So what are you dropping them to in a session, roughly? Like, how much are you pulling out?
So that's a misconception I should have said initially. So, you know, patients think that they're going to lose a lot of weight from liposuction. They don't, not at all. So,
even though the fat, just, you know, you see those little diagrams and you see the models of fat versus muscle and you pull up that.
It doesn't weigh a lot. Yeah, so muscle, you know, weighs a lot more than fat. So it's much more dense. And you see it when we're performing liposuction. We have like a 3-liter canister that we fill. That's only going to weigh about 2 pounds, maybe a little over 2 pounds. And you'll also notice that the numbing fluid that we put in, it comes out, you know, basically in combination, and then the fat will separate because the fat is less dense. It'll actually float, so it's less dense than the fluid.
It's like that old science experiment in school where you had the different layers of colors.
Right. So you realize that doesn't weigh a lot. That's why it's all about contouring. It makes dramatic changes without reducing the weight. So that's why sticking to just that preoperative surgical weight is not, you know, it shouldn't be that difficult.
I mean, you know, you're thinking about 2 pounds and I would think 10. I was on 10, 15 pounds. Oh, that's easy. I'm not going to gain 10, 15 pounds after this, but a 2-3 pound margin of error.
I mean, no, if you gain 2 pounds, 3 pounds, it's not even, you know, it's not that dramatic. But I had a patient who like gained 25, 30 pounds.
Ooh. And what time of,
it was in about 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
But I will tell you, the shape was still good. Like she still had a nice waist and hip. It's just she gained it in her thighs.
Oh, just accumulated in other areas.
Yep.
And so now, do you go in those areas and pull it out of there, or do you tell her you should probably start dieting?
You can.
And it's nothing against her. It's just it's very easy to just lose track. I'm there right now.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't push. Like honestly, I would rather her lose weight on her own if she can. I'd rather not just go back in and do another surgery.
Yeah.
So they usually have to fight me to try to get back on the table to take care of it. Because I'm like, all right, well, you gain this now. What's to say that you're not going to gain again? So
Another
just,
20 to 30.
We need to get you in a mindset where you're going to have, maintain those results after surgery. And it's really important. And it's an investment.
That's a tough conversation.
Yeah, but it's an investment for them. So, I mean, if they find that, a patient is having, this much of an issue that brings them into my office, obviously it's a big deal to them. So it should mean, let's take all the full steps to make sure we have a good result, which is just, lifestyle change,
And that's why you work with dietitians and nutritionists.
Yes. Yep. And a lot of times we have patients that are, they do need to lose some weight, but some of them, I will perform the surgery if it gives them like a kickstart. It makes them feel better, makes them feel more comfortable going into the gym. They see a change. Again, you can see a change in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You feel good about it, and you want to continue that road to actually having that improved shape. So you motivates you.
How long after that surgery are you able to go back to training and living a somewhat?
I'm probably a little more aggressive than most when I say you can go back. Yeah, you can go back about a week out.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I hear it all the time. Other plastic surgeons saying you need 3-4 weeks time. I tell my patients go back in a week.
And you found over the years that you've been doing it that there's
never had an issue. Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Right.
We'll just keep knocking on this desk.
I mean, I don't say, look, go back and do exactly what you were doing.
Yeah, start hammering out a John Meadows workout and just balls to the wall.
Yeah. I mean, get back, start doing things, slowly and easy, and then you progress and just see how your body feels. You got to wear that garment, though, 24/7.
Keep that thing strapped down.
Yes, you have to go work out in that garment. Maybe want to get a few of them.
Yeah, it's going to stink.
Yeah.
It's like getting wrapped in saran wrap and just sweating.
We know like the sweet sweat and all those like wraps you would put on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that in a way, but yeah, it's a little cumbersome. Yeah, to work out and it's kind of rough, but at the same time, I mean, it's all a mentality thing too. But if a patient does ask me, so those are the good things. Like if a patient wants to ask me when they can have a drink a week out, that's going to frustrate me. But if a patient have a week out says, hey, when can I go back to the gym? I'm like this.
Yeah, this person gets it.
I like this patient.
Yeah, I like this. This person gets it.
We're going to have a great result.
Yeah, we're about a half hour in. Dr. Buglino joining the show. I like to just introduce once we kind of get past some talking points, because I do want to breach into your background, what got you started into plastic surgery, the practice, and obviously going private. It's a tough, crazy thing being an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of roadblocks, hurdles, whatnot. And I think that I usually talk to somebody in the fitness industry, or I've had attorneys on. It's cool when you get to the medical side of things. You can talk to somebody.
There are parallels though, which is nice.
Yeah, there definitely are. There's the same palpitations that you get being a small business owner.
Absolutely.
Sit there where like, oh gosh, I go get checked out. But so school, what got you started? Where did you first dive into? Did you want to go to med school when you first started? How did it begin? I guess
we're going way back. Like,
we're going back.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I want to know what you were playing in your car as you pulled up to college.
Oh man, I don't. You know what? Back in college, the big. See, this is going to date me, but the big song back in college was OPP.
Oh, love it.
That was
video of me dancing in my diapers at 2 years old in my kitchen. Yep, in my old kitchen in West Hempstead. My dad put a backwards Raider cap on me. And we were dancing to it in the kitchen, home movie. So I'm down with OPP.
Yeah, when I finished college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. To be honest, you had this, I had this big idea about sports medicine. I wasn't even sure what that really meant. Is it orthopedics? Is it physical therapy? I wasn't sure. I liked athletics. I played sports, and that was something that I was interested in, and I wanted to help people. So initially, I thought maybe physical therapy. So I actually started working with a physical therapist. I was doing part-time with them. And I also like biology, science. So I was working at a physical therapy office. And in the evenings, I was working with a grad student at the Coldstream Harbor Laboratory.
Oh, cool. Right here.
Yeah. And after a while, I realized I didn't like physical therapy. It was okay. I mean, the patients were great, but it seemed kind of monotonous, to be honest. I mean, patients were put on kind of similar things, TENS electrodes, moist
do
heat,
the
their
stretching.
exercises. Yeah, and you would kind of like, okay, I'll get moist heat on this one. Let me go into the next room, put the TENS electrodes on this one, and then I'll work with this one. And then when that one's done, we just, and this is a revolving thing all day long.
Like the Ford assembly line, pumping them
Exactly.
in and out.
But the patients were great. The patients were, and a lot of them, the ones I worked with were older patients, 60, 70 plus, and they enjoyed coming. When you told them, we met your criteria, you don't need to come back, they were upset. They're like, oh, I can't come back anymore. I really like coming here. So it was good working there. And then the labs gave me that access to just the whole biology part of science that I liked. But it was late nights. So I would work part-time at the physical therapy office. I would leave, I'd go home, I'd grab a bite, and then I'd get to the lab at about 7 o'clock, and I worked there until about 1 in the morning. And I was doing that just about every day.
Damn.
After a while, I really liked that part of it. So after a while, the grad student that I worked with said, look, you built up enough criteria here where, a lot of skill level where actually you can work here. I mean, we're looking for somebody that we need to work in the lab. So I applied and I got the job. So I was working there for a few years, and I was working at a bench, and I was running protein gels and PCRs, and we were working with basically it was DNA mapping. So we basically would run these PCRs. We would actually locate areas of, like, say, basically DNA that had colon cancer, and we'd map it and find out where it was actually located on a chromosome. It was neat. It was fun.
And that was all at Cold Spring?
It was all at Cold Spring.
Cool.
I had the greatest boss in the world. She was amazing.
I pass Cold Spring every time I come to the office because I take Northern all the way to Huntington.
To Huntington.
So it's perfect. I every time I pass it, I see the laboratory on the left, then I see the hatchery on the right as I'm driving towards it, east.
Yeah.
And then you get the Cold Spring, the actual harbor right there. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
I love it there.
The grounds were amazing. It was really nice. It was great working there. And then after a while, I was complaining to my boss. I was saying, I do enjoy what I do, but it's a little lonely. Like I want interaction with people. And right away she goes, you need to go to medical school. And I'm like, really?
And how old were you here?
Now I'm probably, let's see, maybe, 25.
Cool.
Something like that, 25, 26. And I said, well, actually, I haven't taken all the pre-med requirements in undergrad. And she goes, okay, let me figure this out. This is my boss. It's amazing. Next day, I come in, and I have a stack of these applications to post-bac programs. So I'm going through these. I come out and go, what's a post-bac program? She goes, post-bac program is to take additional courses that you didn't take in undergrad to meet your requirements for medical school. And that allows you to apply as a, basically as a pre-med. And, typically most of them are a 1-year program. So I was, she was amazing. And I went through all these applications. I ended up applying to University of Miami.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up getting in there as my post-bac program, which was great.
So you went to Miami?
I went to Cornell undergrad, and then went to University of Miami for my post-bac program. And then
Side note, I fucked up because I should have went to somewhere like Miami and had the time of my life. I wouldn't have gotten my studying done because I barely got it done sober.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if I went to Miami, oh man, it would have been so much better than Connecticut.
It was crazy. I mean, they had a bar on the campus called the Ratskeller, and on Thursdays was like reggae Thursdays, and there'd be bands outside playing. The main pool was this big Olympic pool, and on a nice day it was just packed with everyone lying out, like sunning.
Oh man.
We had these party trips all the time, Greyhound buses taking you down to South Beach. It was ridiculous.
Oh man, I screwed up. But
But
when I have kids one day, I'm telling them, do not go to college in Connecticut. You need to go to Miami or somewhere fun.
But I mean, you gotta buckle it down a little bit. I had, I was taking, not only was pre-med courses, but I was also taking anatomy, genetics,
Tough shit,
physiology, like other stuff too, in addition to that, just so that, I'd be a little more ready if I got in, that I would, be able to sustain it. Cause, I was also wasn't unsure, like, medical school is tough, and am I going to be able to do this? And so anyway, that really helped. I did that. And then I applied to medical school. I ended up going to Nova Southeastern, which is in Florida. I think a lot of it was also that link with being in Florida. They were familiar with the post-bac program in Miami. So I got into Nova Southeastern. That's where I met my wife. So yeah, I saw her. It was like a class of 220 kids, and it was the first day. We had to stand up one by one, introduce ourselves,
Oh, fucking hate that.
tell everybody something interesting about you in front of like 220 people. And when she stood up, I looked up. I'm like, she's from Long Island. I knew right away. And yeah, she was from Melville. It's great. We became study partners. I mean, this is long days. I mean, we were studying, for different exams. It would be, after lecture, be in the library literally from, 3:00 to 2 a.m. We were doing that all the time. So we spent so much time together. And in medical school, what you have is you basically have the first 2 years are didactics, which is lectures typically, and you have your gross anatomy. And then the second 2 years, you have clinicals. So the clinicals for me is when you rotate in the hospitals, and mine were at Mount Sinai, Miami Beach.
Okay.
Which is amazing. Another great place. Beautiful hospital. I ended up living in South Beach on Shore Road. It was this tower, top floor, overlooking...
Fat.
Yeah, overlooking the bay and the main infinity pool.
Fat. Oh, man.
I literally have my bed by the sliding door, huge balcony, and I have the sliding door be open. I feel the breeze off the bay when I woke up in the morning, watching cruise ships. It was incredible.
Picturesque.
It was, I think, I paid... This is just unheard of.
No, stop. You're going to depress me. Stop it.
It was...
Because I'm paying more in Huntington Village.
It was like $14.50 a month.
Oh, stop.
For this amazing place. Valet parking. They had a doggy walking park. 2 infinity pools, jacuzzis.
What's this place called? Do you remember the name?
Flamingo.
It's called Flamingo? I got to see.
They sold them off to condos now, I think, but it was incredible. And like, for instance, I would be doing my ER rotation, and we were working nights. So I'd work the full night, come back in the morning. I would actually go downstairs, and I'd fall asleep by the pool. And then they had a tiki bar, too, where so someone would come by, and they would take your order if you wanted. And they sandwiches, whatever you want, and they just put it on your next month's rent.
Your room.
It was insane.
It's like a hotel.
It was a hotel.
Yeah, you lived in a hotel.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, it's a weird angle, but yeah,
yeah. Weird angle.
It's just
heard that before. Let me see.
Yeah, it was the coolest.
Premier townhome, premier residences. I before I let you continue, I'm just so curious what they're charging now.
Oh, it's got to be astronomical. I think I stayed in what do you call that? It's basically like an efficiency type of a.
It was a 1 bed, 1 bath, or was it a studio?
Studio.
It was a studio.
And the coolest thing was underneath the sink was a combination tiny little washer dryer too.
Oh, that's cool. It
was really cool. Yeah. So
I do not have a washer dryer. I either bring it to the laundromat in town and get the press and fold service, which I do like.
Yeah.
Because they don't shrink my shit. They don't shrink anything.
But you have to lug it out. It's a pain.
Oh yeah.
Like, this was nice.
Dragging it right across the street.
It would hold like maybe 4 shirts, but still.
Or do it at my mom's house when I'm just, I said, I gotta drop the dog off anyway. I don't want to spend the $40-$50 right now to go get the laundry done in town. Let me just do it there. I'll buy the pods.
Oh, I would be there all the time. It makes sense. Save money.
983 square foot studio 1 bath apartment.
Yep.
They call it the Dunes. 3,500.
$3,500 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a studio.
So more than double.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry. So laying out by the pool, getting the next morning recovering.
Yeah. So when I talk to friends, family, they're always like, how do you get through medical school living in a place like that? But I think for me, it motivated me. If you're in a place that's like depressing and not exciting, you would not want to sit and study. Like for me, I was thinking, I want to get my work done so I can enjoy where I'm living. It really motivated me for the most part. My wife and I, we would study, my girlfriend at the time, we would study in Starbucks, Barnes and Nobles. But it was nice. After, we'd take a break, go outside, palm trees, beautiful weather. It was nice.
Take a deep breath of salty air.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So during my clinicals, I was at Mount Sinai, Miami Beach. And during my surgical rotation, I was, you get beat on as a med student. The residents, they bully you around.
I've seen Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, similar in a way. I mean, obviously there's a lot of fictitious stuff, but I had this one resident, and I remember the first day he says, I need a cup of coffee. I also want a fresh pack of gum every day. And, these are the notes I want you to do. And he would just lay all this out to you. And you would just basically.
And you had to do it. You had to eat it up.
Put your head down and just do it.
Very tight.
And then we have surgeries. And when we had surgery, we would basically be the person who would just have the retractor, and you'd be holding this thing steady, sometimes for an hour plus at a time during whatever they were doing. And I didn't enjoy it that much, to be honest. I enjoyed kind of seeing some of the anatomy, but at the same time, you're just more feeling just spent, and it wasn't enjoyable. So when I was in the surgical lounge one day, I had an amazing surgeon that came through, and he just sat down next to me, and he says, "Take off your shoelace." I thought it was kind of odd, but I knew he was, one of these surgeons at the hospital, so I took off my shoelace. He wraps it around the leg of the chair, and he starts teaching me how to do a hand tie. So there's what they call like a one tie and a two. So the one basically is the initial throw, and then the second one locks it.
For stitches?
For stitches.
Okay.
So for hand suturing. So he teaches me this number one tie. And then I show him that I can do it, and he goes, okay. And he goes in the back, and he comes back out with about 20 packs of silk sutures, and he puts them in my hand, and he goes, "I want you to tie these tonight. Tie them all until they're done." And I said, okay. Didn't know.
So just tying them together?
So basically you kind of, he put it around the leg of a chair. It's just like, let's say you were tying down a vessel, or if you took a stitch and you put it through some tissue and you were going to just suture it straight down.
Okay.
But you're basically putting square knots, and you're doing it by hand.
Gotcha.
So I never met him ever. He didn't even say hi. Didn't say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so." I knew of him, but that was it. So went home. I tied every one of these things. My wife will tell you, she came to my apartment, and I had sutures on handles of desks, doorknobs, anywhere you can wrap a suture around, I was tying it. Then basically went back into the hospital. A couple of days later, I was back in the surgical lounge. He walks in, "Take off your shoelace. Let me see that number one tie." I tie it, and he goes, "Okay, now this is the number two. This is what locks it." It's like, okay.
So he literally just showed you the first step.
Yes. Yeah. And then he was a cardiothoracic surgeon, by the way. So, he's doing a lot of open heart surgery. So I do the second tie. Goes in the back, comes back out with the silk sutures. "I want you to tie all these tonight." And again, didn't see him for a few more days in the surgical lounge. Walks by me. This time doesn't even look at me, just walks right through the doors into the operating room suite. And I get a call on the intercom. "Student Dr. Buglino, you wanted an OR8. Okay, so I get up, I walk out, and there's a little window where the OR is, and I look in, and he's doing one of these gestures, meaning scrub in.
Scrub in, yeah.
Really intimidating, because this is open heart surgery. This is not like, removing a little lipoma or a cyst. You walk into the room, and there's about 20 plus people in there. You have a whole nurse.
Is that the usual amount of staff for an open heart surgery, just because it is so intricate?
Yep. Well, you have nursing, you have the bypass team, which is a whole machine in itself, anesthesia, you have the tech. There they had PAs who were first assists. He's in there, some scrubbing in, and then I come in, and, they can tell. You can always tell when someone is kind of unsure of themselves when they walk into the operating room, because they basically, they teach you the sterile field, which is tip of your shoulders to your waist. And someone who doesn't know kind of, if they're unsure of themselves, they just hold their hands straight up like you would see on TV.
Yeah.
Right? So you walk in there like this, and they're all staring at me. And then I self-gown, and luckily I was able to do all that, and they didn't kick me out. I come up to the table, and he hands me a sternotomy saw. And he basically says, "Place this underneath the sternum." He makes an incision underneath the sternum, and I want you to pull up and push forward and hold this trigger down. So I do, and opened up the chest. I'm a third-year medical student. Open up the chest.
Was your heart beating like crazy?
Yeah, but it was just really super exciting. And basically opens up the pericardium, which is kind of a tissue that encases the heart. So he has access to the heart. So he opens up the pericardium. He takes a suture. He takes a bite of the pericardium and takes a bite of the inside of the chest. And then he hands me the stitch. And he goes, "Number one tie."
Oh, man.
Yeah. And so I throw the tie, and he goes, "Number two." And I lock it. He goes, "Good. Do that again." And then he cuts it. Next one. And so basically he had me suture up the whole pericardium of the chest.
Wow.
I mean, it was ridiculous.
How long did the entire thing take?
I mean, to do that, to open that up was, about just like 5 minutes or so.
And then to stitch all of it together with the same 5 minutes?
No, so that's basically just to open up the pericardium. So now you have access to the heart itself.
Okay. But you were stitching, you said.
Yeah, so stitching the pericardium to the chest to just
to keep it open.
Keep it open out of the way
Oh,
so you can work on the
gotcha.
heart. And now they were going to perform a bypass, and what they were going to do is harvest the internal mammary artery and basically bring it down to an area after a blockage and give good blood flow. So, and that's very intricate, like, basically microsurgery type of suturing. And so the case itself, that was about maybe 3 or 4 hours. And normally when I was doing surgeries, it felt like forever. That was 3 or 4 hours. It felt like 10 minutes. It just flew by because I was just
so zoned in.
Yeah, because now I was a part of this and we were working, and it was amazing.
So after you stitched that, he had you step aside and you watched from next to him?
Yep. Yeah.
And then he did the rest. Did he have you do anything else, or that was it?
No, that was it. And then
That's pretty cool.
It was very cool, very cool. And then after that, about a week later, by the way, I have these patients on the floor that you have to take care of. You get typically about 10 patients that you need to follow, and you got to see them, you got to examine them, you got to write notes on them. The residents look over the notes, make sure everything's right, and then they'll sign off. So you have all that work too. So, after the surgery, you rush out and you'll got to see all these patients, or else the resident's going to kill me, the one who wants the coffee and the gum. So you're like,
what type of gum were you getting him?
yeah. Oh, I don't remember at the time.
Double mint.
Some Trident,
What's your
whatever.
fucking double mint? Shut the hell up. Throw the pack at him every morning. I just pop it right in his face.
Yeah, he was, oh my gosh. I mean, he was definitely had a complex. But then a week later, I'm living at this apartment that's over the bay, and I had a friend in from New York, and I get a phone call, and it's the surgeon. He has his boat. He pulls up behind my building, and he says, "Anthony, I'm going to teach you how to run a stitch today." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Because I'm down here on my boat. I'm like, "Oh, I have a friend here. It'll only take an hour. Just come on down." I come on down. I go on his boat. He takes us out. There was actually another resident or medical student too. We go out, and he takes us to this island, and he has these blue towels that we use in surgery, and he has basically needle drivers and sutures, and he teaches us how to run a stitch. It's the coolest thing. And so then he drops me off back, and that following Monday, I'm in the surgical lounge. Walks by me just like he did last time.
Doesn't say shit.
Doesn't say anything. Student Dr. Buglino, you want an OR 6. I get up, I look in the window, he does the scrubbing gesture, I go in. He just harvested the superficial saphenous vein, which is basically in the thigh, and he's going to use that to bypass the heart. So he's got this big incision on the thigh, and he looks and he points to the leg, goes, "Close the leg."
No, like, just right there. Just go do it.
Close it. And I'm seeing, you got this 2-foot long incision, and I've never stitched anybody in my life, except for this blue towel that he showed me like a week
for an hour.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And I just look at the surgical tech, stitch. And so she knows what to hand me. She hands it to me, and I start closing. Took about an hour plus to close this leg, but it was like the most amazing thing. And again, time flew by. And at the end of the surgery, I said, "Hey, I'm needed on the floor. The residents are going to kill me. I have to see all these patients. I can't keep coming in and doing these cases. They're taking a long time." He goes, "Listen, you're a diamond in the rough. You have great hands. I think you're special. Blah blah blah. I don't. Maybe says this to a lot of medical students.
People.
I don't know.
You never know.
But you
felt good when you hear that.
Yeah, it felt great. And he said, "I will take care of whatever you need. You're with me now."
Hey.
Yeah. We meet in the cardiac care unit at 6 a.m. We round on our patients. We come down. We have typically 2 to 3 bypasses, surgeries a day. You're going to be with me every day. I'll sign everything you need. And from then on, I was with him. And the first weekend I started working with him, I was on call with him, and I was standing online to go to a movie. I get a phone call, and he says, "We have a patient, emergency bypass." So we go in. Now it's just, again, the bypass team, anesthesia. There's no PAs or assists. It's me and him. And I was first assist on a full bypass. It was unreal.
So how long were you with him in total?
That was a 3-month rotation.
So you learned a ton about cardio.
It was unbelievable. And just the trust he had in me was incredible. And then towards the end of when I was with him, I remember we're in the surgical lounge and he rips a straw in half. And he basically had a needle driver and a 6-0 proline stitch. It's basically a small small suture that you used to do these anastomoses, meaning bringing vessels together. And he was teaching me how to put the end of a straw to the other end of the straw. And I was happy that that was the end of my rotation because, I mean, I don't know what would have happened, but part of me is like, he would have had me doing anastomosis. That would have been just insane. I would have been, I mean, I was a third year medical student.
To stitch two veins together? Is that what it is?
So basically stitching a vein to an artery.
Oh, gotcha.
Or actually no. So like internal mammary artery, actually stitching artery to artery. If it's the saphenous vein, what you do is you actually reverse it because veins have valves, arteries don't. So you want to reverse the vein so that the valves won't hold up any blood flow. But yeah, it could be that too. But
damn.
Yeah, so it was ridiculous. I mean, 1 in a million, I think, to have that type of experience.
Yeah, to have the dude pull up in his boat behind your apartment. Yeah, 1 in a million.
It was insane. I mean, who meets people like this? So, at that point, I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. I'm like, I'm going to do heart surgery. I was just so excited to do that type of surgery. So, at the same time, I was thinking I wanted to stay in Florida. I loved it there. My girlfriend at the time said, I'm moving to Long Island. I'm going back to Long Island. My family's from there. My family's from Long Island too, but I wasn't as close with them as she was. And so she goes, I'm going back, figure it out if you want to come. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? And I was set on staying in Florida.
Hit you with it.
So I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to apply to some programs in New York. And this was really like last minute.
And these programs after your rotation, what would this be a residency? Is that what it's considered?
Yes.
Okay.
So this would be a general surgery residency. That's how you'd start out, general surgery, and then you do your fellowships if you want to specialize. You have to start with general surgery first, which is a 5-year program.
And you're at what age now?
Oh my gosh.
Because you started as about 25. Your medical journey.
Yeah, I guess. Now I'm getting up to 30. Yeah. So at this point, I applied to one program in Brooklyn because a friend of mine from medical school I was speaking with says there's one spot left because it was late in the game. I was going to stay in Florida. So he goes,
Florida to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That's a
So
difference.
because we have one spot left, they may be able to squeak in there. So I called and they said, yeah, we have this one spot. If you get here tomorrow, we'll interview you. And if everything works out, you'll have the spot. So I literally drove to the airport an hour after that, got on the next flight, interviewed there and got in. I was in Brooklyn doing general surgery, which was, it was a tough residency. And meeting the cardiothoracic surgeons, over the years, things changed. And there wasn't, a lot of the cardiothoracic surgeons weren't very happy who I was working with.
Down in Florida?
No, in Brooklyn.
Oh.
I even went back down to Florida to visit the cardiothoracic surgeon I worked with there, and his workload changed. He said the open heart surgeries aren't, the numbers aren't the same as they used to be. Stents now have been so much better that they're basically having stents and foregoing open heart surgery. And the open heart surgeries that we're getting are patients that are more sick because they're the ones who couldn't tolerate the stents. So even the surgeries so they're less and more difficult. And the cardiothoracic surgeons I met in Brooklyn, basically same idea. And they were, doing lung biopsies, chest tubes, different things. And, they weren't doing a lot of open heart. So 4th year, you typically kind of decide if you want to stick with just general surgery, if you want to do laparoscopic, if you want to do vascular, if you want to do cardiothoracic, or if you want to do plastics. So you make that decision so you can apply to those fellowships. And I remember my 4th year, I was every surgeon I would be scrubbing with, I would ask them, so what do you think? What should I apply to? And before I could finish my sentence, they would say plastics. I always had like an art, background. I like to sketch. And when I was closing a lot of these cases, I always wanted everything to just be perfect and just so. And they all kind of knew that. And they thought that was the way for you. And then my final choice, though, came down to the craziest, typical 180 trauma and plastics. Because I loved my trauma rotations. That they were great too. But
what did you like about the traumas?
They were just exciting and
the unpredictability of it
and saving lives. Literally, just you're in it to save somebody. You know, it was amazing. And when it was just a well-oiled machine, it was just a great thing to see. I mean, everybody had a role, and if you did it the right way, I mean, the chances of helping somebody and saving them was so much higher. It was great.
Just the firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. Yeah, really like when you come in a trauma team, when a patient comes through the doors, it's the coolest thing to watch, really, when everything's working. So,
And so a trauma team, you would just be a hospital, like ambulances rushing people in, car accidents, gunshots, stuff like that.
mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So you're on call as a trauma surgeon, and it depends on, if you have a group. So it could be, you're on call every third night, fourth night. It depends on how many are in your group.
And I'm sure a lot of the stuff that you learned from him in cardio adapted well to that.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, adapted to everything. I mean, you kind of went from, I mean, as a third-year medical student doing that, everything else, just seemed a little more familiar, as you went. And some other people were just going into surgery and everything was brand new. And to me, I'm like, I already did a lot of this stuff.
I knew this shit. I knew this shit. I was thrown to the fire.
It was so cool. It really was. But then I had to take a step back and decide, okay, lifestyle. If I want to have a family, how is that going to be? Do I want to take call every third night and be sleeping in a hospital and rushing in the middle of the night? Plastics is just something that I can do and still enjoy kind of things I like to do, creatively, like kind of incorporating the creative aspect of things and operating at the same time. So that's what I chose to do. I chose to do plastics.
And so now a trauma surgeon versus a plastic surgeon that's on call,
Mm-hmm.
you would generally be during the daytime for plastics?
No, but there's not a lot of plastic emergencies, to be honest. I mean, you may have, laceration, facial fractures, stuff like that, but they're not, true emergencies. Not, it's not like a gunshot or someone stabbed or someone's got a ruptured appendix, which is even, it's general surgery, but like you don't have to rush in and do that. I mean, it's not life or death.
Yeah.
So that's the big difference.
Okay.
Yeah. So to be even facial fractures, nasal fracture, something you had a nasal fracture.
That's what happened, man. I don't think I've talked about it much on this podcast. A couple of times it's probably come up in conversation, but the short of it was playing flag football in 2011, playing flag football a couple days before New Year's Eve. It's about to be it's 2012.
Okay.
A couple days before New Year's Eve, be 2013. I think it was the 27th of December, 28th. I'm playing safety in the end zone. I literally just see the ball hovering. My buddy threw the ball right over the middle. We have a stacked. I mean, it's like 7v7. It's a big game.
Yeah.
I see the ball just hovering over the middle. I said, got this shit. I run, dive for the ball, flat out, sprint and dive.
Uh-huh.
And the other kid on my team had the same idea. And we collided faces in midair. So I was still pushing off the back leg, and he was too. So we really hit each other.
Mm-hmm.
And when we hit each other, I was a little bit lower. His chin was right here. So he snapped my nose, and his teeth went through the muscle in my forehead, and they cut me up there. And then all of his teeth went through the bottom of his lip, on the bottom teeth, went through the bottom of his lip, and that dislocated his jaw. I hit him so hard.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
Did you got anybody lose consciousness or anything?
He did. I didn't. I stumbled. Yeah, they were asking me questions to see if I had a concussion.
Yeah.
I from what I remember, I was totally cool. But no, it's okay.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it. No, it's good. No, it happens.
Yeah.
But I just remember smashing faces, stumbling. I remember the whole thing. Stumbling. Didn't feel it.
Yeah.
Didn't feel it at all. Stumbling, and my hand, like my body knew something was wrong. It was crazy before I even knew something was wrong. And as I picked my head up, because I stumbled and hit the ground, as I picked my head up, all I saw was drip, 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 and then it was shooting out of my forehead.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting mad now. I hate needles. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. I'm going like this. I'm just palming my head, and it's just dripping down on my face. And I'm screaming. I'm going, fuck, I'm going to have to get stitches now. And the angrier I'm getting, the more my blood pressure's going up, and it's
now more blood
shooting
spread.
out. My friends are like, holy shit. They grab me. They throw me on the ground. They're like, Nick. They put a hoodie on my forehead to just try to contain the bleeding a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hear somebody realize that the other kid's knocked out cold. I was causing such a scene. They didn't even know he was out.
Yeah.
So then I told them, I said, call my mom. I said, let her know what happened, blah, blah, blah. I said, somebody else call the ambulance. I don't know what it looks like, but it sounds bad. And my buddy was on the phone. Ambulance pulls up. My buddy was on the phone. They told me this afterwards. and he's on the phone with my mom, and she goes, "Is he okay?" Well, yeah, he's okay. He's laying down below. He's a little angry about his forehead, and he goes, "I don't think he knows that his nose is broken." And she goes, "Don't tell him his nose is broken." And as the paramedics walking over, he literally just goes, "All right, who's hurt?" He goes, "Oh shit, kid, you broke your fucking nose, huh?" And I went, "What do you mean I broke my nose?" Looked at it. It was like this. I'll show you the picture.
Yeah.
It was bad. I think she did a good job stitching me up in the hospital.
Yeah, I don't see any.
Right there.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see it. Yeah. So even there, we can do some laser if you want to even.
Yeah? Get rid of that a little bit more?
I want to pretty up a little more.
I got to show you the picture.
But that's an example, right? Good example where, was that a plastic surgeon that did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was awesome.
But did nothing with your nose that night, right?
No. So what happened, and this is the bullshit insurance shit that I got totally creamed with.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for Apple at the time. Amazing health insurance. Like I could lose a limb and they'd regenerate one for me. That's that kind of insurance that Apple gave its associates.
Nice.
So I went there. They did the forehead, and she just goes, "Your nose is so swollen, I can't do it.
Exactly.
We have to re-break it, do it."
Exactly.
She goes, "You have to come back for surgery."
Yep.
I said, "Fuck, dude, I don't want to get surgery." I said, "Leave it. I'll be like Owen Wilson." She goes, "Yeah, not the same." She goes, "Seriously, not the same." And I still don't think they did a good job after the surgery because I still feel ever since then. I don't feel
your airways still.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm getting the most oxygen up there. But
so you can revise it. But that, like, just what I'm saying. So lacerations, I mean, again, emergency, but not anything, not life or death. Fractures, nasal fracture, facial fractures, typically those things, again, the swelling, you need everything to resolve before you do anything. So that's 5 days, 7 days before you even do anything. So not like trauma. Oh yeah, that's shifted. Yeah, nose was shifted.
It's the forehead.
Okay.
His teeth went deep, man.
Seen a lot worse though, not bad.
That wasn't horrible. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. But for a guy that doesn't like needles, it wasn't great.
They give you antibiotics too, because his teeth were wedged in your
I think
skin.
so.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's the bacteria.
But I remember, I'll tell you what, all I remember, I have it on video actually. I'll have to show you that off camera because that was an interesting video. They drugged me the hell up in the ER.
You have video of the closure?
Oh, yeah. I have. It's on the side, like you see.
Yeah.
I had them record the whole thing.
Nice.
So
I get that a lot.
you just hear me.
I have parents that videotape their kids getting sutured and stuff.
Yeah, you just hear me talking shit, like not to her, just in general. Like we're just and I'm all drugged up, and she's just. But what I remember when she was doing the surgery, not the surgery, the what would you even call that? Just fixing it, the stitching and whatnot. Procedure.
Yeah.
I remember she said I have to cut some of this skin away because it's very jagged, and I have to make sure that it's tight.
So that's the difference between plastics and if you get closed anywhere else. So the typical things that a plastic surgeon does versus an emergency room doc will do typically is you want to freshen up those edges. Yeah. So if they're jagged, you don't want to put jagged, beat up skin edge to beat up skin edge. It's going to be a poor scar. So you're actually going to trim that skin edge away, and then you're going to undermine the skin. So you're going to actually go underneath the skin to just kind of release everything, to make sure everything's fairly loose. So when you put it together, there's no tension. And that's the key. Like tension is the enemy when you close these lacerations. If you close anything under tension, it's going to stretch and get a wide scar. So yours is thin. It looks like they did all those things.
It was like 30-something stitches in my head. It was a lot.
And then you want to do deep sutures that are going to take, about 90 days to dissolve. That's going to hold everything tight. And then you put sutures
Is that what
on the top.
you think that's what you put in me?
Yeah. Typically. And then you have sutures on the top you take out within 5 to 7 days.
All right, let me see.
So
2013. Let me see. I'm gonna hit this real quick.
But when I'm taking care of kids,
There you go.
parents will like freak out when you start cutting the skin away.
That was after the nose surgery too.
Yeah,
but you could see the stitches on the forehead.
Yeah, that's a good job. Yeah.
Hey. Okay, so the way that the insurance fucked me though is because I went there, got the forehead done, went back for the surgery because she said it's too swollen, we can't do this right now.
Yep.
Got the surgery done. They said, "Oh yeah, you owe us $15,000 because you went back. It's elective surgery now instead of emergency." I'm like, "Yo, are you out of your mind? I couldn't breathe."
Yeah, that's an issue that you can have. But actually, most insurances will accept continuity of care for the person that saw you in the ER to perform the necessary surgery that was related to that injury.
I think she performed that surgery too.
Yeah.
How long are you usually out for a surgery like that for the nose?
I mean, it depends on how extensive it is. If it's just to, to
I'll tell you what, I know
the fractures. So typically reducing a nasal fracture is basically all you're doing is manipulating bone, putting it back into place and putting a splint on. There's not much to it, to be honest.
Okay.
About an hour.
Okay.
Maybe even less. But if it's some septal work where you really have to like repair a fractured septum, if you're doing this,
I don't think I
also-
had that done. I would have known, right? If it was a fractured septum and they fixed that.
Maybe. Did you have splints in your nose? Did you have kind of like tubes that were sutured in?
No.
Nothing like that.
No.
Because so when you do septal work, there's
Well, like draining, like so you could breathe.
yeah, well, there's a mucosa that goes over the septum. And so you have to actually release that. And if you have bleeding between the septum and the cartilage, then it actually can compress on the cartilage and decrease blood flow, and your cartilage can die. You can have a collapse of your cartilage.
Ooh. Yeah, no,
So
there was nothing in there. That's a day
Yeah.
after the surgery.
So they'll suture basically splints in the septum to keep it compressed, so no blood can build
and then they
up
have to
between
take those out, right?
And you take them out.
Yeah, no, I just had the surgery and that was it.
Yeah. So they just manipulated bone. I don't think they did anything to your septum.
Okay. They probably should have.
So, yeah. You probably have
A deviated septum
a deviated septum, and that's why I have an issue. So
Yeah.
it's something that I get a lot of patients that'll come in and deviated septum. I see them on my patient list, and I'm like, this patient wants a rhinoplasty. Very common. So they'll come in, they'll say, oh, my septum, I have trouble breathing. Oh, by the way, I have this bump and I don't like the tip. So they try to
knock it out while they're already
utilize the
under.
insurance and take care of everything. It's very common. But
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that they put my nose on wrong. That's what I tell them. Because that chicken pox scar used to be dead center on my nose. So I know they did not put my nose on right. But that was my plastics story. Besides that, I mean,
That's legit.
They actually took the skin tag. My mom told them before when I went into surgery. She's like, "Can you just take the skin tag off of his nose while you're in there?" They said, "Yeah." They cut me right out while I was already under. So, yeah, crazy, interesting trauma plastics, I guess.
Where did you go? Which hospital?
Huntington.
Okay.
Huntington Hospital. Yeah, good experience. It just I don't like needles, so it wasn't awesome when
They're
they
pretty good there.
when they put that huge needle in my forehead to numb it. That thing was humongous.
Really?
I remember seeing a big ass needle.
I usually use what we use for Botox.
Nah, it wasn't
tiny
that
needle.
Nah, it wasn't that small.
So we do like a little nerve block, which is, you have a nerve that basically runs, there's two, that run here that kind of come up and they splay out and supply, sensation. So actually, if you inject right at the root, then you'll kind of kill most of the sensation here. So you just do that first. So
Does that hurt to hit the root?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're injecting a nerve with lidocaine, which you feel burning and pressure. But
So I had a dentist who was numbing me up for a cavity.
Yeah.
Couldn't get me numb. Wasn't feeling numb. And then he said, "All right, I got one more trick." And he put the lidocaine or whatever nerve agent or numbing agent they use into the front of my gum where the nerve runs.
Yeah, it's the mental nerve right here.
Yo, I thought he stabbed my tongue because it runs to the back of the tongue, he said. And I felt like he put it in my tongue. He just hit that nerve, and that was it. Like, it was like shock, crazy pain. Did not like that.
But then it was numb.
Numb as shit. It was over.
For a while, right?
Long time.
Yeah.
I looked like Kramer. Remember when he was wearing the shoes?
Yeah.
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 That's what I look like. Just every
you
time I
can't
drank
drink
water,
or eat,
just drip it all over
For
me.
hours. Yes, I did a good job then. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it was a good job.
Yeah.
So back to you.
Uh-huh.
You said you selected plastics, and then you were working as plastics in the hospital. Or this is did you go private instantly?
So when I decided to do plastics, I applied to a few programs. So I'm a DO, which is a doctor of osteopathic medicine. I applied to one of the bigger programs, an osteopathic plastic surgery program. There's not many of them, but I applied to one of the oldest and most respected ones. And it was difficult because there's very few, so it's pretty competitive. I remember being a chief resident in Brooklyn, and I would be post call, and I would drive down to Philadelphia to present an article for a journal club. They'd have journal club monthly, and so the key was to be noticed. Like, you need to basically be around the physicians, the fellows of the program, so they're familiar with who you are. So when you apply and they open up your chart, they recognize who this is and this
There's
person.
an association.
Yeah, so it was a lot. Yeah, so I was back and forth to Philadelphia all the time.
Why'd you have to go to Philly?
Because that's where this program was, and that's where
Gotcha.
I wanted to go.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up getting into a program in Philly, and I ended up getting a small apartment there. And now I was married, and we had a newborn. So I was driving down to Philly. Basically, what I was doing was commuting. I would stay down in Philly basically during the week, and I would come home on the weekends. So let's say on a Friday, if I had a surgery, it finished at 7, 8 o'clock at night, I would drive straight back to Long Island, and then I would stay there. And I didn't want to stay and leave on Sunday because I felt like I was never even home. So I would leave Monday morning. So I would leave at about 4:15 in the morning. On Mondays, drive down to make it to my surgical case, stay for the week, and keep doing that. But then when I was on call, I stayed in Philly, and my wife would bring the baby down, which was like compounding everything. You're on call, and you're running out to the hospitals in the middle of the night taking care of people, come back, and now you have a screaming baby in your apartment.
Oof.
So that was rough. But it's amazing what you can get used to. Like, I think about that now, and I was like, I can't not believe I did that for 2 years. That was insane. Like, now, if I get called to go to Huntington ER, I'm like, I got to drive all the way to Huntington. And I live in Syosset. It's like, oh my God, it's crazy. You just get, you get a little lazy when it comes to that. Yeah.
How'd you like Philly?
It was okay. I didn't really get to see a lot of it, to be honest, because again, I was just kind of there for that
Just in
Monday
the
through
hospital.
Friday, and then just running out. Spent some time in Reading and Wyomissing, and met a great surgeon there, and that was a good experience. But typically, I didn't really see a lot of Philly.
Okay.
Didn't take up any sporting events. We did go to we got to the steps, the museum, and did all that one weekend.
Shout out Philadelphia in the Super Bowl this weekend.
Yeah.
Yep. Shout out the Eagles. I'm not an Eagles fan, but I'm not a Giants fan, so I'll root for the Eagles when they play the Giants. So there we are.
Okay.
And I don't want to see the Chiefs win again because I'm a Patriots fan.
Yeah, I'm rooting for my brother's a big Eagles fan, so I don't know if he really is a true Eagles fan or he just enjoys antagonizing Giants fans. I don't know.
Probably a hybrid, probably a mix of both.
Probably. Yeah.
So you did the program down in Philly. How long were you down there for before you came back to Long Island?
So that was 2 years. And then after that, I joined a plastic surgeon in Huntington. I was with him for a couple of years.
And this was a private practice? Or
Private
was this
practice.
Okay.
And then after that, I went out on my own and been on my own ever since. So on my own since 2014.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you worked for this individual in the private practice, how much was there any adapting that you had to do compared to the hospital life? Did you find it easier because now you had office hours? Was it almost like a welcome change where you could just
my
take a deep
idea,
breath?
it was, it's tough because you just you think that maybe you'll be working in a hospital when you're going to be doing surgery. I never thought about having a private practice, work in a private practice setting ever. So yeah, it was a little bit of a culture shock, and you don't just hit the ground running, when you join a practice like that. You have to kind of, pound the pavement, meet other doctors, get referrals. So yeah, it gets pretty frustrating. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah, so that's actually what I was going to ask you. So I want you to talk about some tougher cases that you're at liberty to talk about, because I want to make sure that your patients are, concealed and they don't think that it's a show about specific people in general. It's just maybe some obstacles that you've had to go through that were new to you, I guess you could say. But in terms of the actual private practice, when you decide to go off on your own, it's not like me with videos where I can go up to a business and I can say, hey, give me the opportunity, let me shoot something for you, show you what I can do. You're manipulating someone's body, and it's a lot more serious, and there's a small margin of error. So when you do something like that, did you find it was hard to get a reputation going at first? Is it all networking? Like, what is it? What's the best way to guess when you hit the ground running? Or
the thing that I appreciated with the surgeon that I joined initially was he wasn't big into advertising. It was all word of mouth. And that's typically the best way if you can try to build a practice that way. It takes a little bit longer, but I think in the long run, you tend to really enjoy the patient population that you have. Because if they're referred from a patient that's happy, you're typically going to have another happy patient, and they're typically going to kind of be similar in personalities to the other patients, and kind of have the same type of, determination to make sure that their, procedure is done well, and they have post-operative responsibility that they understand, those kinds of things. They're not just like fly by night, want a quick surgery and then do things that, you don't want them to be doing post-operatively. Like they're pretty responsible for the most part. So you tend to be happier, I think, in the long run when that happens. That's how I feel. I mean, again, I could be mistaken, but that's how I feel about it. I think if you do a lot of advertising, you get a whole bunch of different patients, different personalities, and it's tough to just really meet expectations and do it the right way that way. So yeah, it takes a little bit longer. For me, I did a lot of work. I worked in nursing homes, did a lot of wound care. I think if you just get involved in hospitals, nursing homes, just being, friendly and, working alongside a lot of other medical professionals, you just build these relationships and they'll refer you and, you build it that way. I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah. And then you're actually able to show that you care.
Yeah.
Instead of just, I want to just bang out these surgeries, call it a day, and move on to the next patient.
Right.
That was one of the things that, I'm glad that I'm able to shoot videos with you because you actually care about your patients. And I care about my clients. So, it goes a long way when you work with somebody in a professional setting that end to end, there's no, I'm saying? There's no, I'm gone. There's no, we talked about this when we shot our last round of videos.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think you want to, you're going to be with that patient every step of the way. Like we're just trying to say, I'll never just kind of leave a patient, solo. I'll always be available. Like nursing homes, some of these most horrific wounds would come into the ER, and I had privileges at a few different nursing homes that I had over the years. And if it was a patient who had a real complicated wound and they want to send them off to a nursing home, I would say, can you send them to this nursing home? Because I have privileges there. And I would go there once, twice a week and just constantly take care of them, make sure the wound is looked at the right way, just so things don't go south. You have a lot of these patients that are 70, 80, 90 years old. And, if you miss a beat, they're back in the ER and sometimes even, not surviving. So you really got to keep an eye on them. I think doing that early on, I still had that mentality from that to just when I'm taking care of the most, healthiest cosmetic patient. I just want to make sure from beginning to end, everything is covered and taken care of precisely the way you want it to.
Super reassuring.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody that likes surgery. You know what I'm saying? Like there are some people that have that weird fetish that they just want to be admitted to hospitals and be put under and get surgeries done for no reason. But which I'm sure
hopefully you could weed them out. But
you weed them out. But when you have a procedure done, whether it's elective or something that you just need to have because you have a gash in your forehead or something, whatnot, having somebody that you can count on that is there. And I mean, you give out your cell phone number. That's huge. You know what I'm saying? Like we were talking about that.
Because part of it is also a mental thing where I'm so nervous about missing something that I would rather have the inconvenience of a neurotic patient calling me all the time just so that I don't miss anything. That's super important to me.
All bases covered, literally.
Yeah, and if I do a surgery, say I perform a surgery and they stay overnight in the hospital, I see them that night because it's a mental thing. I have to have that mental picture that I saw them, they look great, they were doing fine, and then I can go to sleep. If I don't see them, sometimes my mind is running. Are they okay? Are they okay?
And that goes back to the huge point of you care.
Yeah,
and a lot of people probably don't, especially in the field.
I think a lot do, but sometimes
in the hospitals probably not.
Yeah, it
you're
depends.
just a case number.
Yeah, I had one attending who maybe it was a curse or it was helpful, but he told me when you're taking care of a patient, always think of the worst so you don't miss anything. So, which is great, you don't miss anything, but you freak out all the time. Patient's like, I'm having a little, I'm just getting a little more short of breath. I'm just a little tired when I walk up the stairs, and you're like, pulmonary embolism. This patient's going to die tomorrow.
You're the walking WebMD.
So you really just want to make sure that everything's covered. Yeah, so you worry about everything.
You actually showed me some crazy before and after pictures for some of the wounds that you've done.
Uh-huh.
And wasn't there something, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while, it's when we first linked up probably about a year ago, you had shown me something, I think was it your brother-in-law, something like that, or somebody you knew with the regeneration with the
finger.
Can you talk about that? That thing was crazy.
Yeah, so he was working on a job site, he's an electrician, and they were pulling piping out of the ground. And I guess piping has these brackets that come off them, and he was working with a crane operator and hooking up the hook to this clamp to pull this piping out of the ground. So he puts the hook on the pipe, and his finger is still between the clamp and the hook, and he didn't signal the crane operator, and the crane operator just pulls up
Yeah, just had a reflex of doing
and
it.
just basically crushes his finger. And if he didn't pull his finger out, his finger would have been gone. So he yanked it out, and he just took all the tissue off right down to the bone.
On the top, on the tip of the finger.
Yeah. Basically, it's from from what we call the DIP joint, which is the distal part of the tip, all gone completely.
Damn.
So I was familiar with this one product. It's called Acell.
Acell.
Acell, and it's basically porcine pig bladder basement membrane, and it comes in a powder form and a sheet form. The reason why the bladder is because the bladder turns over cells quickly, so it's basically a great source of stem cell and actually works as a matrix. Basically, matrix is kind of like a constructive type of material that allow your tissues to kind of grow through it. And so I use this powder form. We used to use it at Westchester Medical Center. I did part of my training there, and these little kids would lose their fingertips, and they get caught in a door. They get slammed, and they lose their fingertips, and sometimes they come in and their bone is kind of sticking out. So the process there was actually shortening the bone, and then we'd close the skin up and over the bone. So this new product came out called Acell, and we started putting the powder on the fingertips, and we teach the parents how to do it daily. And it would actually regenerate tissue that grew up and over bone, and it wouldn't even be this callous like scar tissue. It would be very soft, healthy looking tissue. It's amazing. So when my brother sent me this photo, he literally sent this photo to me a minute after it happened.
Oh.
So I get this text and I see this horrific finger, and then the phone call, and I have him on speaker, and he's just screaming, and I'm like, all right.
A lot of pain, I assume.
Yeah. So, I right away thought of this Acell, and I thought this would be the way to go. The thing is, typically how you treat this sometimes is you actually want to do a flap where you want to get tissue. We can do what we call a thenar flap, where you actually raise tissue from the thenar eminence on the palm.
So like this fatty part?
Yep. You basically make like a trap door. You bring the finger down, and you suture the trap door basically to that area, and you leave it like that for about 3 to 4 weeks.
So you sew your finger to itself, to your palm.
Yes. And so now that heals to the wound, and then you disconnect it, and now it can be attached, and it can stay healthy because now it actually basically configured its own blood supply now.
Had live tissue.
Yeah. But someone who's, over 40 plus years old, and you do this and you keep your finger taped like that, you're going to have arthritis forever. You're not going to, you have the stiffest finger. You're going to go through, long-term rehab and trying to, OT, occupational therapy, stuff like that. So we thought of the Acell. I was putting that on basically every other day or so, and it's amazing.
You were putting the powder on him?
The powder. I did the sheets and the powder. The sheets are a little bit thicker. I did the sheets initially for a week, actually wrapped everything, kept it wrapped for a week and moist, and then we did powders after that.
And so what was so now when you use Acell, is it you have to start using it instantly, like right when you get the wound?
You just need a raw surface. So if things potentially healed and you don't have that raw surface, you have to create that raw surface again.
Ooh,
so you have to kind of debride everything down to healthy.
Time is of
bleeding.
the essence.
Yeah, so you need a bleeding, well, you can create a bleeding wound bed again. So, and that's kind of a process too. So actually, as I'm even adding the powder, some days I'm actually scraping a little bit, creating a little more bleeding so I can get things to kind of.
Is he numbed up when you're doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, we do some digital nerve blocks, but yeah, he wasn't,
Digital nerve blocks?
Yeah, so they have digital nerves that run alongside both ends of the finger. So you basically inject those, and the finger basically falls asleep. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it's amazing. He has a fingerprint now.
Nail grew back?
Everything.
Damn.
It's incredible. Yeah.
That's some crazy shit.
It's really cool. It's like sci-fi stuff. So, there was a kid in Westchester who was on a ride-along mower with his dad, chopped off his toes, and
all of them on one foot.
Yeah, on one foot, and it didn't grow back the toes exact, but he grew back digits. Literally digits. It's just pretty cool.
And so, is this relatively new in the last?
And I've been working with it now for 11 years.
So it's been around.
Yeah.
So now what's the next progression of that technology? Would it be a stem cell? Would it be?
Yeah. They're utilizing a lot in all kinds of wounds, abdominal surgeries, stuff like that.
For like what, hernias?
Hernias, yeah, help regenerate tissue.
Is that the mesh that they put in? No.
It's a sheet. So it's not a mesh. It's a thicker sheet that they can actually put in addition to the repair.
Gotcha.
It's going to allow everything kind of heal in and basically regenerate tissue.
That's so cool.
It's really cool.
I hate medical shit, but that is
Yeah.
cool, man. That is so crazy.
So I have read about, they've utilized it a bit with PRP, platelet-rich plasma, where you draw blood, you spin it down, you take the platelet-rich plasma, and you inject that into your scalp to grow hair. So some people have combining the A cell with it to grow hair. So
Is that what they're doing in Turkey?
they're not doing that. They're doing the full
Yo, I
the
saw
hair transplant.
So I saw there's a food channel that I watched. This was it World's Best Food, something like that. He was on Rogan recently. I watched him years ago. I forget his name. Super talented guy, really cool, engaging host. He goes around to every part of the world, and he just showed you the best cool spots, the underground, like native spots, everything. He talked about his experience going to Thailand and getting the hair transplant.
In Thailand, yeah.
Yeah. And it was, he documented the whole thing. Like he showed them punching all the holes in his head and then taking it from the back and then bring it to the top.
Right.
Then afterwards, how he had to keep his head totally covered and whatnot. Yeah, it didn't look like fun. Looks great.
Yeah.
And I think it's crazy that we've gone from basically stapling ant legs to dudes' heads with just hitting a row with a staple gun to like something like that where your hair actually starts to grow.
Originally, Bosley, you see those commercials, right? And people diving into the pool and coming out in their hairs.
Luscious.
So Bosley would typically, what they would do is they would take a strip in the back of the hair. You'd cut a strip of it.
From the back of your hair?
Yep.
Oh, that's how they did it.
And then you had people called cutters. Basically, they would cut them up into these small, tiny little kind of squares, patches with the hair that's spreading through, and that was placed. So they were more like, almost like sod, like they're putting that in. So that's why you kind of had that kind of plug look.
Yeah.
So now you have what they call FUE, or follicular unit extraction. So it's a modality where you basically have kind of like a little rotor that's on a suction. So you shave the hair down from the hair that you want to remove, and you place that little rotor over that one singular hair follicle. It could be kind of a combination of two or three maybe. And it basically will kind of spin and then pull that hair out. And now that hair can just be placed anywhere. You take a little sharp scalpel blade, you make a poke hole and just stick it in. So now you don't have any scars.
Like planting.
You just plant it. And then you can do PRP, which is kind of like fertilizer. You inject it and it'll help everything grow too.
And that, I find it crazy that root alone will actually help you start sprouting hair again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some areas easier than others. Like if the receding areas kind of easier to fill than say the back of the head, because the blood supply is just more robust.
Gotcha.
In the front.
Interesting.
But, yeah, it's pretty cool. One of the attendings that I was training with in plastics, he was one of the first ones to start using this machine.
Really?
And he had great results. He's just doing a ton of it.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. Every day I FaceTime my dad. Mm-hmm. He goes, let me see that hair, man. I said, yo.
Yeah, I'm jealous. That's good hair.
It's just, I mean, this is only since September, August, growing my hair out.
Wow.
And I cut the sides. Otherwise, the sides would be just as long. It's crazy. My dad's bald as hell.
Yeah.
Bald as hell.
But how's your mom's father?
My grandfather, up until the day that he passed away, full head of hair.
Yeah.
But what I was saying before is my dad's 6'1" almost. 6'6", basketball player. Me, 5'8", capped. But I have more muscle. I have denser, more muscle on me than my dad ever had. Uh-huh. I got all my grandfather, all his genetics. I have calves. Grandfather had boulders on the bottom of his, like, never went to a gym in his life. Boulders.
So if you could have your dad's height without the hair, would you do it? Or
nope.
You're happy where you are?
I'm happy. I love being 5'8". I don't give a shit.
That's good.
Some people get so weird with height. Mm-hmm. I don't understand it. It's like, all right, a girl's going to say, I won't date a dude under 6 foot. All right, best of luck. I don't give a shit. Like, have a great one. That's your preference. Enjoy.
Yeah.
It don't matter at the end of the day. It's all the same shit. Mm-hmm. Who cares if the dude's 6 foot? Like, unless you're, like I'm dating a WNBA player, unless you're 5'10", 6 foot yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, really? I mean, listen, if you don't want to be the same height as me, you don't want to be 5'8" with me. You don't want to be 5'7" because you put heels on and you're taller than me. Whatever. I'm not insecure about that. Right. I don't give a shit. If you're taller than me with heels on, I'll make all the jokes in the world. I don't care. But yeah, I had he's going to kill me if he listens to this, but I don't care. I had a friend who, he's weird with height. I don't know why. He like makes jokes. He'll like point things out. And I always tell him like, it's not that big. Like, I don't care about this shit. Like, it don't matter to me. So one day we're about to golf and he leans into me and he just goes, "Yo, Nick, I just want to ask you something real quick." He's like, my wife and I, we're going to be having kids at some point soon. He goes, and meanwhile, he's 5'10", 2 inches taller than me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, we're going to be having, kids soon. She's not so tall, this and that. So the genetics are probably going to be kind of in the middle there. He's like, do you ever feel bad being 5'8"? Like, do you ever? I was like, do I feel?
So he's worried about his kid, and he wants to know if that's going to be okay.
Yeah. I'm like, do I feel bad being 5? No.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't. No, I never sit at the edge of my bed on a morning and go, oh man, if I was 5'11", things would be different.
But nowadays it's so common. All these kids, they're getting growth hormone to increase an inch or so.
Is that what they're doing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. It's very, very common.
You know what? Now I'm feeling a little insecure. I gotta get some growth, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like an inch and a half they get, but and they're getting these injections regularly to
kids. And where are they getting the injection? Just anywhere? Does it have to be spot injected?
I don't know specifically. Probably the arm or something like that. But they get growth hormone injections for height. It's very common.
Is that safe?
I suppose I haven't heard any problems with it, but I have some relatives that have had it.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have an idea that they're kind of, going off the curve a little bit as far as the growth curve, they're staying kind of on the shorter side, they'll start you on growth hormone. It's really common. These pediatricians will prescribe this.
I'm having an 11-year-old that looks like Tony Robbins. It's gonna be crazy.
I mean, I think back and I'm like, I could have got some injections. I was kind of like a late, birthday in my year. I was like, I should have been redshirted. I could have been so much better at sports if I stayed back one more year. Yeah.
If coach put me in,
been different.
If coach put me in, we would have made states. That would have been it. That would have been the turning point. So you have your practice now, and you deal with all types of plastic. Is there like a specific type of plastic that you specialize more so in, or you just do everything?
I do everything.
Is there something that you like doing more than others?
Not really.
Like when a case comes across your desk and you just go, "Oh, I'm so excited to have this on my desk again."
I think the most gratifying type of surgery is when I'm doing these Mohs closures, which is basically after skin cancer removal. So on the face, if it's reconstructing a nose or an eyelid, something like that, that's really gratifying.
You had shown me one of those where there was no nose. It was crazy.
Yeah, half the nose is removed, and then we basically reconstructed it with ear cartilage and a flap from the cheek. That stuff is fun. I mean, patients, you kind of make them whole again, and they're just they're so happy, they're so gratified, and so I think that's really.
Make sure you're on that mic.
Yeah.
Sorry. You can start talking like this.
Yeah, I mean,
you're good. It happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the best type of surgery, I think. But at the same time, you can change someone's life just by making them, improving their self-confidence by just doing a cosmetic procedure too. So,
tweaks the physical appearance.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, more than not, liposuction, I tend to kind of lean towards more, which is something I prefer to do just because I think the patients are extremely happy. The recovery is easy. It's just a no-brainer, I think, for the right patient. I've never had a problem with, knock on wood.
Yeah, we got to knock on wood again.
Yeah. Never had an issue with liposuction ever. Lipocontouring, patients are happy, they bounce right back, and they feel great. So that's probably one that I lean towards the most because it's just there's no real headaches involved in it.
Yeah,
what I've seen so far.
You do have something in front of you that you wanted to show.
Yeah.
It's been sitting there. I've showed you before. I don't think anybody can see it. No, they can't even see it on the camera. It's just been sitting there staring at us. Yeah. So what is this in front of you?
So this is a breast implant, silicone implant.
And you obviously deal with breast implants.
It was actually sitting upside down the whole time. Now it's right side up. The reason I brought this is because we actually had this implant. This was removed from a patient and it was ruptured. So kind of give you the idea of the consistency of a silicone implant. Yeah.
So it's on my finger.
Yeah. So it can get a little soupy, but basically this is what we call a gummy bear implant. So it's a form stable or high viscosity silicone, basically that won't extravasate. So if you have a rupture like this one, it's not going to kind of leak everywhere. It's going to stay self-contained. Most of the time, if you have a rupture like this, it's called a silent rupture because you actually don't have any issues. You're not going to have any symptoms from it.
How would
So
you know?
really, the only true way to know is from an MRI. So you see an MRI, and something like this. When you have an implant placed, you form a capsule. It's scar tissue base that forms around it because it's a foreign body, and typically the capsule is very thin. And if you have a rupture, what you end up getting is a double capsule. So you have a capsule around this, and now you have a secondary capsule now coming around that. That's how you would see it.
Okay.
Also, sometimes you call it a linguini sign, which is kind of like you see a little wrinkle in the MRI.
Okay.
Those are the things you look for.
So on the topic of breast implants, I had talked to you about my earliest experience of breast implants, hugging one of my mom's friends and just having rocks touch me. And you were saying that's the older implants.
Well, that's a capsular contracture typically. So
I thought it was the older implant.
Well, sometimes the older they are, and especially saline, sometimes there's actually more propensity for it. You can get that scar tissue, which is that capsule around it. And if that gets thicker and contracts down, that's how you get that kind of that rock hard, stone look of an implant.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like they poured concrete in there.
Yeah. So those you basically would remove. You'd remove the capsule, replace it with another implant. Sometimes they recur, and there are a few different things you would do to try to prevent that. But I did have one patient in particular, older patient, who came to the emergency room and she was leaking material from her skin, from the area of a breast implant.
It was coming out of the skin?
Yep. Yeah, so her skin kind of broke down and she had this substance kind of leaking out, this brown substance. And we scanned her. She basically, it didn't even look like a ruptured implant. It just looks like these foreign bodies that were in there. I was reading up on it because she said that, she had implants. She told me the year she had them.
We're both rubbing our hands because it's all over.
Yeah. It's good for
Sorry.
you. This is good for scars and silicone. It's great.
Is it? Okay, good.
Yeah, but she told me the year that she had them placed, and there was no such thing back then. So they were experimental. And I was reading up on trying to figure out what they could have had. And they basically had, back then they used to use kind of like what you would make with candle wax. They were using that type of material in these experimental in patients. It's like you ever hear of paraffin?
Parabens.
So my familiarity with paraffin is in physical therapy, you get a paraffin dip, which is if you had kind of like arthritis in the hands and joints, basically like putting your hand in almost like this liquid candle wax, and then it would just kind of harden around your hand, and it would just heat everything up.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's like dripping wax.
So like what I used to do with the Elmer's glue, but just with that.
Just with that.
As a kid.
So these are, I think it was a paraffin type of material. And went in there, removed it. When I removed it, it looked kind of like barbecue, like lava rocks.
Ooh.
Yeah. Just incredible. I imagine that was in there forever.
So the technology has obviously changed and adapted and gotten better for breast implants.
Yep.
So what has been the biggest change? Is it the type of implant and the feeling of them to be more natural? Is it the safety of it? Maybe it was a different material that they use now versus, let's say, the 90s or, the
safety
early...
profile. Also just different choices that you have now. Before it was just implant. If you wanted a 300cc or a 500cc, it was just a bigger implant.
And when you talk about CCs, I just want to try to break it down because some people may not know. So when you talk about the CCs, what does that relate to in cup size? Is that how you do it, or
kind of? So if it's based on your bandwidth. So say someone's a 34C, that 34 is your bandwidth, and depending on the bandwidth, that's how you would decide how many CCs would be about a cup size. So you kind of break it down where like a 32 bandwidth, it's somewhere around a 150 to 200 is a cup size.
Okay, gotcha.
Obviously, the bandwidth becomes larger. You need a larger implant to have more projection and increase that cup size.
Okay.
So that's how you measure bra size. You basically measure, you can take a tape ruler around the back, underneath the breast, and then you come across the most anterior projection of the breast. And then you basically, every inch difference is a cup size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So as you were saying the different CC sizes. We were talking about the different materials and how they've gotten, improved over the years.
Yeah. So the material's better. They're not, the rupture rate is decreased. The type of silicone now is basically, again, form stable. So it kind of just sticks together. It doesn't extravasate as much. And you have different profiles now. So if you wanted a 300cc and you want to go up to a 400, you can get one with a higher profile that's going to fit into your, what we call our breast width diameter. So you measure that diameter, and that's kind of like your footprint on your chest. If you go outside of that, then you're going to have an implant that's going to be kind of in your armpit.
Yeah.
Or if you're trying to squeeze it in, you're going to get maybe a symastia or a uniboob type of thing. So you get one that's more projection that fits into that measurement, but just comes forward. So there's a lot more varieties. That's the biggest thing.
I see that a lot in the fitness industry, the crazy side bubble.
Yeah, so if you have a side boob like that, that just means that you probably didn't get the right implant for your body shape.
And was that, I mean, obviously the patient has final say of how big they want to go and whatnot, but would that be at the doctor's discretion to say?
I guess yes and no. So that's the thing too. I mean, I tell patients no a lot more than I do yes, to be honest. If I don't agree with the choice, I'm going to say, maybe I'm not the right surgeon for you. Maybe you should go somewhere else. You got to believe in, what you're doing. And if you're going to put an implant that's not fit for that particular patient, they're going to have problems down the road. And the first and foremost is, again, do no harm. You want to be, a physician first. So you don't want that implant to fall into the armpit or bottom out, meaning that it's going to basically stretch out of the, inferior fold and have to do some other types of repairs. So you want to save them from that.
Is that what you see when it's an incorrect implant size put in?
Typically, or if they go way too big for their body. You have patients that are, wafy thin and they want these big implants. They don't have that tissue support to really hold an implant, and it's going to migrate, and then you're going to have a problem. There's some safety mechanisms you can employ to try to support that implant. There's something called an internal bra, which is like a Vicryl mesh that you can suture in to kind of give you more support of the implant. But for the most part, if a patient is choosing an implant that's just way too big, for their body habitus, it's just not a good idea. You just shouldn't do it.
So on the topic of breast implants,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the things, I guess, I'm trying to think of the questions that somebody would normally have when coming to a consultation that they would like to know for it. So what are some of the misconceptions of a breast implant that maybe you see people come in, they ask questions that it's not necessarily the same as what they're expecting the outcome to be? If any, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of patients come in with like a certain size. They'll say, I want a 400cc implant. So you got to explain to them what that really means.
Sounds huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's typically...
I'm not even in that, and that sounds huge.
That's getting towards the higher end. I mean, they go up now. You can go up to 800 cc's. Yeah. A lot of times using most of those for breast reconstruction because there's no breast tissue at all, and you have to actually, create a new breast. But yeah, if you're getting over 400, there's actually a particular plastic surgeon that makes patients sign a particular consent when they go over 400, explain that you're going to actually increase the risk of, implant migration, capsule contracture, all those issues. So, and I always explain that to them. But you can't just come in thinking, I just want this many cc's. It's more about understanding, the look that you want. I think the best thing that I have them do is I have them send me wish photos, I call them. So I give them a couple different websites, and they can look at kind of how they want to look, and they'll send those photos to me, and I let them know if I can duplicate that. And I take those photos, I actually have them in the operating room, and I use saline sizers, which are basically like a saline implant. So when we actually create the pocket for the implant, I put the sizer in first. I inflate it to about the size that we were talking about. I compare that to the photos that they sent me. And if that's the right look, then I actually open up the silicone implant, and that's what we put in.
Oh, so you bring a couple of those implants in with you.
Oh, always have, yeah. If you have a particular size that we decided on, I'm always going to have 3 sizes below and 3 sizes above. And you always have at least 3, just in case you drop one.
Okay.
Because you don't drop one on the floor and
it's over.
That's it. Yeah. So
I mean, you don't have to tell me, but like they're expensive on its own just to purchase one of the implants by themselves?
The implants are, they're pretty expensive. Silicone are more expensive than silicone. And then you're talking about different profiles sometimes are more expensive.
You said the 2 different types are silicone and what?
And saline.
Saline.
So saline...
this is a silicone.
This is a silicone. Saline, we don't use that often. Rarely we get requests for them now because silicone has just become more common. You have to be at least 22 years old, though, to get a silicone.
And why is that?
Patients don't know. It's just by law.
Really? Is it because of the material? Or is it because of just...
I guess the substance itself. But one thing that's kind of interesting that people don't know...
So if you see a younger girl... I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. If you see a younger girl that has implants, then she has saline then?
If she's younger than 22, unless she got them in another country.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing people don't know is that actually the shell of the saline implant is silicone. The material.
So which one feels more natural, the silicone?
Silicone.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so saline, you're going to typically get more rippling. The shell is a little bit harder, so you kind of feel that difference a bit. Yeah, silicone by far. Yeah, and it depends too. The one thing is if you have some breast tissue to begin with, and you place these implants, I mean, a lot of times you won't even ever know if a patient has an augmentation or not.
Okay.
Yeah. If someone's very thin,
Yeah, you just see 'em as
fitness,
just- yeah.
bodybuilders, yeah.
Oh yeah, super low body fat percentage. They stick out like sore thumbs.
Yeah, you see the edging of the implant. So that's also controversial that I see a lot. If a patient, let's say, is a bikini competitor or something like that, and they're discussing the plane, where they want it placed, above the muscle, below the muscle. My argument is kind of you spend so much time and effort, right, to perfect your body and the way it looks. Do you really want implant edge and, this unsightly look of that implant on your chest versus putting it under the muscle? But then the trade-off is, you're going to want to do less chest exercises. You want to be conscious of that when you're doing different things. But I think, for me personally, I think the overall look, if it is a subpectoral implant for that type of competitor, like a bikini competitor, I think it's much better. It looks
Underneath the muscle.
that looking natural, and everything else kind of, in that, defined, fit body, I think is a great look. That's what I feel personally. But I'm not sure what the judges think. But
I'm sure they don't. Theoretically, they don't care because I
Yeah.
mean, if they didn't get the implants, they probably wouldn't reflect judging too much. I'm
Okay.
sure there's. I'm sure there's a look that they want to see. They want to see the big chest. They want to see a
Right.
big butt and a tight waist
Sure.
on a bikini competitor. So I get that side of things,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna have to check what it looks like above the muscle versus underneath. Now, do you? It's case by case basis, I assume, but do you generally tell patients that you would prefer to do it underneath the muscle?
I do. I mean, I will. They do have the option.
What's the downsides of under the muscle?
Downside is you actually have less capsular contracture rate of the implant when it's under the muscle versus over the muscle, and you have less show of the implant. So when it's under the muscle, you have all that soft tissue coverage. The pec is actually covering all the superior aspect of the implant itself. It's above the muscle. You're basically, your skin's thinned out, no body fat. You're going to see everything.
Yeah.
You see, basically, it just looks like someone stuck an implant on your chest.
Do you see more above the muscle than under the muscle?
I do because patients don't want to compromise the way they're exercising, and they don't want to omit chest exercises. Even lat pull downs, you'll feel it. But most of the time, that's still okay. But if you're doing flat bench, dumbbell presses, flies, all that stuff, you may get some animation of the implant. Do you want to look some up for you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I don't know if I had access to my phone here. It's okay.
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right.
Oh, here we go. Oh no, that's. So would this be above or below? Can you tell by that or no?
That one's hard to tell. I would say that's below. But if you look up, let's say, if you just Google bodybuilder breast implant,
we're going to see some crazy shit.
You're going to see some hard, sharp edges of implant.
Bikini, IFBB, bikini competitor.
Wait, I'm not
This
finding
shit
it.
is still all over me. That's crazy.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. You're good.
This is,
So like those are above the muscle. Maybe.
well, those are above.
Okay. Yo,
So
that tan is crazy.
this looks natural.
Yo, it looks like she took a vacation to the surface of the sun.
Yeah, let me see that one.
Better get in front of that mic.
All right.
Nah, you're good. Takes a little getting used to.
That most likely is above.
Above.
Because you're seeing the entire orientation of that implant, right? Yeah. So basically, the
That
takeoff
looks bigger than this.
Or
is that just like a
maybe slightly? This is a 380. So it's probably around in the 400 range. But usually it's the takeoff. It's basically you have that soft tissue coverage, superiorly.
So that's like over, right?
That's over. Yeah.
Damn, I guess they are all over, huh? It's crazy when you see like the ribs in the front. You see the cage in the front, and then you just see like this implant.
Yeah, and that's just anatomy, though. In general,
That's just getting super low body fat, and
it just also depends about, again, it's that breast width diameter. So sometimes your breasts just aren't close. And the only way to actually compensate for that is to actually put fat. You're not going to be able to get that by having a wide implant.
Would this be below? That looks a little bit more natural.
That looks like that looks more natural. I think that may be below. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks way better.
Right?
Way better.
Yeah.
So like, what's the argument on below the muscle though? Is there like a complication that you have to worry about?
I just think that, if you're, a competitor and you want to exercise and you want to feel that implant and have that animation when you flex and the implant's going to actually move.
Oh, gotcha.
So if you want to have that kind of issue, then you have it above.
But for the average, let's just say it's an average person. It's not a fitness competitor, somebody that's in the competition realm of bodybuilding, bikini, whatever. Health risks or anything like that, there's no difference between above or below?
Nope. It's typically just a more natural look.
What was it? Now, okay, so I remember being, I don't know if it was my mom who had brought up breast implants because we had seen them when my mom and I talk about a little bit of everything. She had said something like it's harder to screen for cancers. Is that a fact? Is that the below or above?
So the below
that's
is helpful for that. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Because now you have separate planes, right? So you have the implant that's below the pec muscle, and now all the breast tissue is above the pec muscle. So there's basically a definitive plane between implant, muscle, breast tissue. So it's easier to actually visualize.
So they can screen for that much easier.
Yeah. So if it's submammary, basically under the breast tissue, you have that plane between where the implant actually meets that breast tissue right there. That may not be so easy to analyze.
Okay. I did have a question from a friend of mine. She wanted to know pros and cons of breast augmentation. She said she knows some women who are afraid of BLL. Is that real? I don't know what that is. I didn't know what that was.
Anaplastic large cell lymphoma.
Okay, to even consider getting one.
Yeah, so there was initially, they started coming out, it was around 2010, they started actually finding this anaplastic large cell lymphoma. It was typically in textured implants they were finding them in. And the way they would find it is basically, patients were symptomatic and they would remove implants and they would find it in the capsule, the part that actually forms around the implant. And you develop more of a definitive capsule with a textured implant. The textured implant kind of feels like...
This isn't textured, obviously.
No. So the textured one is kind of grainy. It's almost like, like a skid plate, like on a skateboard.
Yeah.
Or,
that... Yeah, like the grippy
tape.
Tech.
That's kind of what it feels like.
And what would be the reason that someone would get that versus just a smooth one?
So if you're having an anatomic type of implant, so if you have an implant that's shaped, they call it a form-shaped implant where it may be like a teardrop. So that needs to be textured because if that shifts 15 degrees, that's going to be a funny looking breast. If this shifts, it's round. If this shifts 15, 20 degrees, doesn't matter. It's not going to change the shape of the breast. So the textured ones have to stay and hold their place. So that's why you need a textured. And they typically cause kind of this chronic inflammation from the material that it's texturing the implant. And that chronic inflammation can turn over cells that can become cancerous cells. And then they started actually seeing these also in smooth implants. But the majority of the time when they were doing that was because it was during a breast reconstruction case, and the expanders, a tissue expanders typically looks like an implant similar. It has texture, and you're able to fill it to a desired size. And the reason why you do that is because when you're doing a breast reconstruction, we call implant-based, you want to increase the skin surface area to actually improve the envelope that's going to surround the implant. You just don't have it initially. So you actually increase that envelope and skin stretch over time by using an expander. So you would expand it to just a little bit above the size of the implant you want to place, and then you exchange it for the silicone implant. So they're finding these in the smooths, but looking back, they had the expander first. So that's why it was still kind of correlated with textured.
Gotcha.
There have been some recent ones that they have found, I believe, with smooth, but they're pretty rare. It's mostly all with textured.
So that would be the pros. I'm trying to read her question and structure it the right way.
Yeah, it's still it's definitely still a low percentage, and the cure is basically moving the implant in the capsule. That's the cure for it.
Okay.
If you have those symptoms.
And I guess you were saying the pros and cons of breast augmentation. I mean, are there cons? I don't know.
that would be a major con, obviously.
Yeah,
If
besides
if
that.
that happened, there is some, um, some talk about having some type of other issues with, musculoskeletal problems, causing other issues itself. There's nothing that's been proven. But at the same time, if you're having issues and you think it's related to the implant, I'm talking about joint pain, headaches, just not feeling right, and this continues on and on. I had one patient in particular that she just thought it was the implants. That's what it is. They need to be out. Remove the implants, and now it's gone. Is it psychological, mental? I don't know. But either way, if you're having those issues, thinking it's directly related to the implant, you just remove the implants.
Okay.
I mean, there's still, studies not showing that there's any direct correlation, but at the same time, if that's what they're attributing it to, then just remove them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did want to talk to you about lip fillers.
Okay.
Because anybody who's an avid listener of my show, my podcast, knows my stance on lip fillers. I've
Not
never
a fan?
Oh man, I hate them so much.
Yeah.
They're
I'm
fucking
really
stupid.
not a fan either. I mean, when it's natural, I'm a fan.
Maybe listen, man, and you could tell me the procedure of what it takes to make it look not like you made out with a swarm of bees. But it's so dumb to me. It just looks so stupid. And then the girls, they just show it up. Look how good. It's like, bro, like I would prefer the thin bird lips versus looking like that. Like you had an allergic reaction to shellfish.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that, and I want you to tell me your thought process on it. I do.
Okay.
Just my one other point will be, with everything in life, moderation. Okay?
Absolutely.
I think having a healthy outlook on if you want certain things improved, taking the correct steps mentally, preparing yourself for what you want to do, and what a realistic goal of that is. If you want bigger, plumper lips, I'm sure you could get it with a couple of injections and the right plastic surgeon. Got my guy right here. But if you're going to go to fucking just right here, just right here, just right here, and then you just look like you're just constantly an emoji. Yeah. It's crazy to me. Yeah. Please take it away.
So, I mean, when I'm performing lip filler, I'm not a fan of kind of these fish lips. There's some criteria that you want to follow. One is the relationship between the upper and lower lip. It should be 1 to 1.6. So the lower lip actually should be slightly bigger than the upper lip to be natural.
How's mine looking?
Pretty natural. Actually, your upper is a little bit bigger than your lower. But,
really?
but not when you speak. See, when you speak,
now you got it. Now you got. I'll see you tomorrow.
No, but now. But you know what? That's the majority of the lip filler patients. So when you speak, actually this retracts up and this is bigger. So you want to kind of keep that criteria the best you can. You want to also, you don't want to blunt the natural shape of the lips. You get injectors that actually put filler in and they actually will take away the contour. You want to keep that nice Cupid's bow, we call it. You want to keep that shape. You want to potentially define what we call a philtral columns, which is just above the Cupid's bow. And just define the lips. You're almost doing kind of like a lip liner with filler for the definition. If you want volume, you're going to inject it into the bellies of the lips, but you don't want to do it in a way that's going to, again, make someone look duckish. So there's a technique that has been kind of increasing dramatically in the last, I would say, year plus, is kind of vertical injections to kind of evert the lip out a little bit, which you can do in a tasteful way, but I see over and over and over again that they're just everted, just too strong and look crazy to me.
Horrible.
Yeah.
It's tough to look at. And it's tough because I was talking to a girl, God, it was a minute. And a minute ago, a couple months, probably like over the summer. And we're talking, and I just asked her, I was like, do you get lip fillers? And she just goes, oh, really? Like, what, I can't do so? She just flipped out. I'm like, yo, relax.
Yeah.
My next response was going to be, you probably don't need them. I'm a guy who doesn't like a girl that wears a ton of makeup because I want someone to feel secure with themselves. Like you're beautiful the way you are, like with certain things. Like, and if you really feel you need to do something, and get it done.
Yeah, if
but
it makes you feel better about
she was
yourself, that's fine.
she was getting like OD, like you could just tell where she got that curl on that. I was like, yo, you gotta chill a little bit.
Yeah.
But she took that so to heart. It was crazy.
I have a lot of patients that come in, they want lip filler, and they say, I don't want anyone to know. I want it very natural. So we'll actually put some filler in, and we'll be very conservative. And then they'll come back and they'll say, nobody knew I had it. I'm like, I know, I thought that's what you wanted. And then now they want more. And that, so it's kind of like this fine line. They want to be noticed.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you want, if you get something done, something changed, you want someone to notice it, in a positive way.
Then you look beat red like a lobster. It's like, I don't want to make out
there's
with
some techniques that you can do that'll help. One thing I do often is I
don't know who that is.
That's great. They look good.
I don't know who that is. It's a random person. I just type lip filler into Instagram.
But that's not that bad. I've seen a lot worse. You see, they still maintain the shape.
Yes,
they're not
Cupid's bow.
Yeah. So if
I'm
you do that,
I'm gonna start using that. When I talk to a girl next, we're like, yeah, you just want to maintain the Cupid's bow. She'll be like, how does he know this?
Yeah. So Cupid's bow, central tubercle, filter columns, lateral bellies, and then we do something in the bottom too, where we actually will fill both lateral bellies, and you keep it kind of hollow in the middle, and we call that the keyhole. So when you close your mouth, you kind of have this like little keyhole area, which is attractive too.
Is it?
It is if it's done right. It is. But then you get some patients that you have some.
Well, they go OD with everything.
You have some patients that really don't have good lips to work with. There's some that they have no definition. There's just the anatomy of them are pretty poor.
So the term bird lip was like accurate on that, like just crazy.
There's somewhere, you want to talk them into doing something conservative, because if you don't have good anatomy, you can try to change it a bit. You can definitely change a little bit of it, but if someone wants to go big and they have poor lip anatomy, all you can do is accentuate it and make it look worse. So you want to make sure you have to
watch that.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have the right, lips that you're going to enhance.
Yeah, it's the little things that just drive me nuts, just like that.
I feel sometimes it's kind of like, people have these looks, like when they have Botox, they want people to know that they had their Botox, or they get their lip filler, they want people to know that. It's kind of like,
Why? You want it to be subtle?
There's a lot, but there's also those groups that are like, I have that handbag, and I want people to notice that I have this handbag, and I want to notice that I got, she paid for her lips, or she got her Botox.
That's how I parade my dog around. I want them to know he's a Japanese Akita. Look at the bear.
Yeah, you got to put a sweater on him and say, I'm a Japanese Akita. It's just.
I guess on the topic of Botox, you're an advocate of Botox. You think it's good for men, women, everything?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many indications for it, but for the most part, best jumping off point for anti-aging is Botox. And again, same thing, done in the right way, it can look natural.
So what would be the right way of intervals? Obviously, case by case. I'm just asking for a rough.
Average time that it lasts about 3 months. But everyone's different. That's the majority. But I have patients that sometimes last 6+. It just depends. There is a new toxin. They're called toxins. Botulinum toxins is a new one that's come out called Daxify, and that one typically can last 6 months to longer. It's just a higher concentrated type of Botox. I've yet to use it, so I can't give you too much insight on it. But that's potentially a longer lasting one. It's going to be obviously a little more money since it lasts longer. But I think, again, if you want to prevent wrinkles, decrease the wrinkles that you presently have, it's the best way to go. The problem that I have is that sometimes I have patients that are in their 60s and they come in, they never had anything, and now they want Botox. And they never did anything with their skin. So my take I explain to them is, okay, now your forehead's going to start to look smooth. You're going to decrease the little 11 lines between your brows, and your crow's feet are going to look smooth. But now the remaining part of your face is not going to match. It's just going to look strange. So those are the ones that should have some type of, a face, a skin program where it's going to be either peels or lasers or things like that to improve the quality of your skin. So then when you are kind of, reducing those lines and wrinkles, your skin just looks better in general.
I was laughing because Bill Burr said a joke about plastic surgery.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, you're not just going to buff your fender. You're not just going to you're not just going to clean the fender of your car. It's like, then the rest of it just looks all shitty. You got to do, I'm just going to do this. No, you're not. You're going to do everything because you can't just do one little area.
Or he says something like, you don't have wrinkles. You don't look good. You look older, but there's no wrinkles. I don't know what to make of it. Like,
Yeah, no, it's,
yeah, so
I don't know. What did you say? If you're like between like all the people that do too much plastic, you look like a lizard person. And he's like, I can't tell what age this is between
that,
20 something, 40 and lizard. Like, I don't know.
That's what it was. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see it all the time, right? I mean, in these areas, there's so many of these, you see them out and about all over the place.
Oh, they're about.
And, that's the thing too, is you kind of sometimes have to save people from themselves sometimes too. I have patients that will come in and they'll say, oh, I just want some filler. And I'm like, where? And they say, just a little, my cheeks, a little, just kind of, just give me a little bump, give me like, touch me up. And I'm like, no,
bump.
I'm like, you don't need it. No, I'm not doing it. Like, I'll say no.
Good for you though, that you do that,
because a lot of it too is I don't want someone walking around and saying, oh, I went to Dr. Buglino and look at how great I look. And I'm not going to him because, the thing that people don't realize too is filler. It's hyaluronic acid. This is something that's a substance that you can actually find in eyes and joints and things like that. But obviously this is synthetically created, but it forms a reaction. It's still a foreign body when it's injected in your tissues. So even though you may readily absorb it, we're finding now that filler is lasting a lot longer than we expected. Typically we tell patients this is going to last 6 months to 12 months. I've done facelifts where a patient had filler 6-7 years ago. It was the last time they had it, and I'm finding it in the tissues. And also you're having reaction of your tissue to it. So you can kind of have, it may not maintain its natural state. So if someone has kind of like a hardened look, they have kind of like this chronic swollen look, that could be blockage of those lymphatic channels in your face, over injection of fillers. And those things a lot of times you can't reverse some of that. There's enzyme that can break it down, but sometimes when it's taking that effect on those tissues, you can't reverse it.
So it's better to be modest than moderate.
Always better, yeah. I mean, there's indications for it, and then there's just, overdoing things. And I think you see a lot more of people overdoing it, which is scary.
Very scary. But yeah, I'm glad that you're on the side of...
And people are happy to do it because, someone would rather sell 3 or 4 syringes versus 1, to make the money. So you just got to really, do the right thing.
Yeah. You were a firm believer in the hydrofacials too, you were telling me.
Yep.
Definitely want to get one of those. How does the hydrofacial work? You offer them at your practice?
Yep. I don't perform them. So my esthetician would be more savvy on discussing it, but I can tell you that it's basically kind of like a dermabrasion, like a hydrolyzed dermabrasion, where you have basically this mechanism where you're infiltrating water, but you're also putting in growth factor. You're putting in, you can do salicylic acid, glycolic acids, things like that into the tissues. So you're basically putting that into the tissue and then also extracting. There's also a vacuum type of mechanism to it.
So it's like a push-pull.
Yep. And you're basically on suction first. You're kind of just pulling from all the pores. You're cleaning everything out, and then you're pushing fluid in, hydrating it, and giving it all of those, special ingredients, growth factors, and glycolic and salicylic acid for acne. And there's a lot you can add.
So you see a lot of benefits with those.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not painful. It's actually pretty soothing. There's even an attachment now for hair. So, which is pretty cool. So it's a special attachment that you can actually basically clean the scalp. It's the same thing, the suction, to basically clean all the areas of the scalp, to clean all those hair follicles. And there's a take-home spray that allows you to grow hair.
Wow.
Or at least improve the quality of hair that you have, which is really cool. Yeah.
So I could have a mane on top of the mane?
I mean, for you, that'd be a little much. I think you're good.
I want to just see.
I think you're already fine.
I want to see where we go with this thing.
All right.
I'll tell you what, though. If I start losing my hair ever, I say this to everybody. If I start losing any, going bald, I'm going stone cold, Steve Austin.
Really?
Shaving it all down.
It's easier to say, but when your hair starts thinning.
Oh, I'm sure.
You
I'm
start
sure it's
looking
different.
at everyone's hair, and you start realizing, oh my God, that guy has a good head of hair. I never cared less about.
Is that why my dad cares so much about my hair?
Probably. I mean,
Bastards.
Growing up, I couldn't care less about looking at somebody's hair and noticing an actor has, thick hair. But then my hair starts thinning, and I'm like, that guy has good hair. And it makes a difference. It does make a difference. I've also done micropigmentation. I don't know if you've heard of that. So it's basically tattooing that looks kind of like stubble in your scalp.
In the scalp. I've heard with beards, dudes who can't grow beards.
They'll do tattooing for the beards?
Yeah.
Okay. Most commonly, it's in the scalp. So it looks like you purposely shaved your head because now you have the stubble. You don't have just like a clear, shiny head. You actually have the little stubbles that go along with it. So it's the same pattern as your hair. And you can do that in thinning hair. You can do it in areas where it's a little thin. So you actually tattoo that area. So now you just don't see scalp. So you don't notice the thinning as much. You kind of, now you look in, it's dark and it looks more full.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I had it.
Oh, did you?
Can you see the front of my hair? You can see there's a little micropigmentation in the front.
Maybe.
Yeah, so it looks kind of like stubble.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not.
So I had a patient who was training on it. It was called Scalpa, was the company. His boyfriend actually was doing it. So he's like, "You want me to, try it on your hair?" I'm like, "Sure." So I came in on a Saturday, and he just kind of
Did it hurt?
Went to work. No, it actually felt good. It felt like little cat scratches, like kind of scratching an itch.
Okay.
So it was cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, because some people do like the artificial powders and all that stuff to make their hair look thicker.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like permanent, like powder, basically.
When I was at Gold's Venice with Kai this past when was it? September or August? Whatever. Past whatever it was. We saw Charles Glass there. Charles Glass's beard. I mean, Charles Glass, what? How old? 70 something at this point. I don't even know how old he is. I gotta Google it.
Yeah, he's back with the Arnold days, right?
Charles Glass.
Yeah, he's a big trainer for most.
Yeah,
right?
super smart guy. He used to train Kai. Charles Glass, age. Yeah, no, that's a white guy. 70. 70. When I tell you, Kai and I were filming, I was filming Kai on the Stairmaster.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. Look at his beard. Okay, look at his beard.
Yeah.
He walks by us, didn't notice Kai. Kai and I just look at each other, and I said, "Yo, my man Charles hitting that just for men. Black. That his beard was black.
Yeah, that's not natural.
We were fucking dying, and then we went outside, said hi to him, and he said, "Yo, look at your beard." He goes, "Come on, man, this is just for men." Like
he said that.
I was like, yeah, fucking knew it, man. That shit was dark, man.
Nice. Yeah, and that's the thing too. When you see like these, people in their 70s and have jet black hair, you're like, come on. I mean,
I'm trying to think. Yeah,
keep
my
it a little
grandfather
frosted.
white hair.
Mhm.
But yeah, I got a lot of friends that have grays right now. I don't know if it's the stress of having a couple of them have kids, shit like that.
Yeah, I had friends that went gray in their mid-20s.
I don't think I have any yet. If I do, season me out, make me look sophisticated. It is what it is. So I want you to plug the business. I want you to talk about where your office is, if people have questions, this and that. Any other services that we didn't cover that you generally deal with or specialize in?
So I'm in Woodbury. It's 40 Crossways Park Drive. It's basically, I always tell patients it's right. It's across from the second precinct, which actually just burned down.
I was gonna say, what happened there?
There was a fire like a few weeks ago.
Damn.
Yeah.
You're right by Equinox. Equinox Woodbury.
Okay, yeah, that's a better example. Yeah, next to Equinox. We have a full operative suite there, full anesthesia. We perform all kinds of surgeries. Most common is probably liposuction again, which majority of the time we do awake, which I prefer, which is something I don't know if you want to get into, but
we can get into that.
But we do everything head to toe.
Why do you prefer fully awake liposuction?
So a lot of my colleagues probably wouldn't because they want to take the patient out of the equation. Kind of makes it easier to just focus on the surgery itself. But I feel that having the patient awake, it allows me to be more exact. So I think it's all about numbing the patient the right way and keeping them comfortable so they can tolerate the whole procedure.
And watch Netflix like that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's interactive. So like I'll have the patient turn on their side, hang your leg off this way. I can get everything perfect. I have them sit up. I can compare both sides, make sure both sides are exact. I can finish one side. I can show a picture of it to the patient on the table. What do you think? Well, it's neat. And then after that, basically we leave all those little holes open where we gave the numbing fluid. It freely drains out over the course of 2 days. We put them in a compression garment. They get up off the table or in the garment. They feel great. I even had a patient actually who ran errands after the surgery, which I was against. Her friend was with her and she said, "I want to go shopping. I want to go to the mall." And I said, "You have a garment on. What are you going to buy?" She goes, "I want to buy some shoes." So they actually went and bought shoes after liposuction. But literally it's like just, basically 3 days of kind of discomfort that's, not the best. But after day 3, it's not like it's gone, but you can go back to just about anything you're doing pre-surgical.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's tedious, but I just think I think you can just be more exact that way. I mean, when you're under general anesthesia, you're just kind of like a log on the table, and a lot of it is just based on feel. You need a team to come in to turn to different positions. So it's a little more arduous that way, and I think you can be more exact the other.
And it's cool that you have I want to emphasize that you have the operating room in your practice. A lot of places don't have that. They'd have to go to a hospital to do it or a surgical center.
Yeah. If a patient is, if it's an extensive surgery, if a surgery is going to last more than 5-6 hours, that's something I'll do at the hospital. I think if they need more medical support, they have other underlying issues, and we're going to be doing those surgeries, that's also at the hospital, and keep them overnight for observation. But for the most part, the majority of the patients that we take care of are healthy. They're on the young side, so in and out. And it's a private suite. When I'm booking these surgeries, typically that patient is the only surgery that we're performing that day. So they come in, there's no one coming before them or after them. And, we see them in the operating room. When they leave, I leave with them. I'll call them that night, check on them. They get my cell phone number, follow up with them the next day, weekly, monthly, until basically 100% satisfied with the results. We see them all the way through. So it's a comforting setting.
Truly end to end, literally.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a revolving door. It's not like, this patient, you're getting pushed out, you're rushed out because another case coming in. They're the patient of the day, and that's it. We focus on that.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
And any other services we didn't cover?
It's not really. We do, lasers, radio frequency microneedling is something we do.
What's
It's
that?
for skin tightening.
Is there
fine lines and
anything
wrinkles.
cool that you don't think is publicized?
Well, then I have a new modality, which is pretty neat. I just got it in December, called Renuvion. Did I tell you about Renuvion?
Nope.
No. So Renuvion is a skin tightening modality that we use intraoperatively. An indication is for someone to say has some skin laxity, maybe in the arms, and they don't want a big scar, one of those brachioplasty long scars from skin removal. It's a wand that goes underneath the skin, and it's helium based. So we have a helium tank, so it emits helium, creates this cloud, which is this plasma. It was originally called J plasma. So it's this plasma energy, and it gets heated up with radio frequency. So the plasma itself kind of attaches to all these fibrous connective tissues under the skin and gets heated up to 180 degrees within a half a second. And so you place it underneath the skin, and you kind of shrink wrap the entire skin as you bring it out. So that can save patients from having a big scar from skin excision. If you want to do lipo and you're afraid you may have a little bit of extra skin laxity, this will tighten up that skin. So it's pretty nice. Or it's patients that maybe just have little skin laxity that don't even need lipo. They maybe just want to tighten up that skin a little bit.
And they're put out for this?
No, this is under local. So we put, local medication under the skin. We place this wand underneath there and just tighten everything up.
Damn.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And there's not like mass bleeding when you do this?
No, not at all. Not at all. So, in the fluid that we numb with, there's epinephrine in it. Epinephrine basically constricts all those blood vessels, prevents any bleeding. You're going to have some. So it's kind of like what I explain to patients is if you take a liter of water and you take an eyedropper of a red dye, that's kind of like what you're seeing here. You're seeing some blood tinge. It's a small amount of bleeding that makes it look red, but it's not significant.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool.
How can they get in contact with you if somebody wants to consult you, ask you about stuff? Listen, I've kept you. We're going on almost 2.5 hours.
Oh, did we really?
Oh yeah,
See,
it goes by quick, man.
Wow. Okay.
And I know the time is valuable, and obviously I gotta have you come back down. You know that already. So
Cool. Yeah.
how can they get in touch with you if they want?
They can go to my website, buglinoplasticsurgery.com. You can call my office. We'll just run out my number.
Cool. Yeah, just
516-864-0700.
Say it again. I'm sorry, I was talking.
516-864-0700. And just make an appointment. Consultations are free. Just come in, even if you just want to chat about a procedure that, even if you don't have me in mind, and maybe you want to have a procedure somewhere else, and you just want to, run it by a professional and get an opinion, just come on in. I'm not afraid to chat. I'm not going to kick you out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Doc, I appreciate you taking the time and your busy schedule to come
Absolutely.
down.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure, for real. I love talking about, especially the background, the cardio background, just everything that kind of led you down the path of what you're doing now. It gives you a lot more depth than just a plastics guy, which I think there's a lot of depth in that in its own, but people don't see that. So it's cool that we get to break it down. You got to really just spit knowledge about all the areas that you have a lot of information
It's
on.
fun. Yeah. I'm happy to do it.
Now I gotta convince him to get his own podcast. That's what we're gonna do from this now. But Doc, once again, I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Everybody listening, Y'all got questions, hit the man up. You know where to find him. I will put his Instagram in the podcast notes. There'll be plenty of clips. I appreciate y'all for stopping by. Till the next one. Peace.